Check, 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 check. Hello, hello, hello. Have we made it? Are we here? We're here. Oh, my camera's not on. Well, you know, it's on, but it's not. All right. So, hi, welcome back. Welcome to our Bender special, which is about to take up the rest of this weekend as we ramp into the last bit of this election. I can't wait. I don't know about any of you, but I have seen a couple of people online also, like, thinking the same kind of thing or expressing the same kind of thing I'm feeling, where it's like, bro, this is the shortest election cycle we have ever had, and it feels like the longest. It's only, like, been a month. And I'm like, God, can this election please, for the love of God, be over? Are we done yet? And the answer is we're done on Monday. Monday's the last day. If you are a Canadian, just so you know, the polling stations and the way they work is that you, as long as you're in line before the polls close, that you are good to vote. So if the poll where you're at is closing at, let's say, 8 p.m., and if you show up at 7:45, even though you haven't voted by 8, as long as you're in line before the cutoff time, the polls remain open for you to complete your vote. That's how it works. So there's also been a record turnout for the pre-election, early election, whatever. But early voting has had record highs, which, in my opinion, is a good sign. Authoritarian nonsense usually fails as soon as people start fucking participating. So, like, you don't get a Pierre Poilievre, you don't get a Trump when everybody shows up to vote. So, that's where I'm at. That's what I'm thinking. I'm optimistic so far. What would I say to Devin and you crashing the election watch part with you and Landon? I wouldn't hate that. That'd probably be fine. Hit Landon up. I'm sure he won't care. If he cared, I don't think he would mind. I was actually thinking about letting people call in, and if you want to do that, I think that'd be fine. So yeah, me and Landon are doing election coverage on Monday night. I'm still fixing the time on the schedule on that one over on Debate Hub Official, so join us over there for that one. But today and tomorrow and Sunday, I'm going to be taking a handful of the Poilievre and Mark Carney press releases, and we're going to be sort of watching them side by side and comparing and contrasting what it is. So this one, we took a brief look at this. We watched a couple of minutes of both of these last week, but we're I'm going to start them from scratch. But alas, let's turn on the closed captioning. They're both from CPAC, so if you're looking for any of these videos or want to see any of these stuff, if you go to CPAC on YouTube, they have a lot, and pretty much everything that is, like, video, and you just go to there's also, like, they have a website, you go to the media tab, they have all this stuff, so if you're looking for it, that's where it is. Today I'm gonna look at from April 7th. I'm not gonna guarantee I'm gonna go in chronological order, but I'm going to try a little bit to do things that make sense. So both of these took place on April 7th. I'll try to see if I can get them, like, as close together as possible. So yeah, this is from 2 weeks ago. They're both in the same place. They're both in BC. They're in different parts of BC. So Poilievre was in Terrace, BC, and Carney was, I believe, in Victoria. Yeah, Victoria, BC. So that's where we're at. Let's start with Mark Carney. We'll watch, like, 10 minutes of Mark Carney. We'll switch over, watch 10 minutes of Poilievre, then we'll see if we can watch, like, 10 minutes of Carney and sort of do that, and we'll ping pong a little bit back and forth just so we can, like, get a comparison. So let me know. You guys think we need, like, a counter for points versus slogans or something like that? Like, who's using the most slogans? Who's using the most, like, I don't know. We'll see as we go. Let's get into this. Oh shit, you guys can't hear anything. I'm a professional. Yahoo! Yeah, there we go.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to beautiful Saanich Gulf Islands.
Oh,
My
I'm
name
gonna
is
skip
David
through this guy's
Eccleston of Canada.
introduction. There we go.
Good. Thank you very much, David. Good morning, everyone. It is fantastic to be back on Vancouver Island. As some of you know, I have family here, family working for our great Liberal candidate in Nanaimo. I'd like to, actually, I should start thanking Kristen Needham and everyone here at Seasider Inn, very clever name, by the way, for hosting us on the incredible Saanich Peninsula. This is a beautiful spot on a volatile day, and I'm not talking about the weather. The world woke up to some pretty dramatic moves, and they're ongoing in financial markets. So before I get to the main subject at hand, I want to spend a few moments talking about what that means for us in Canada.
Okay, yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, April 7th was like some of the big tariff Trump drops, so that's what he's referring to. So if anybody doesn't remember 2 weeks ago, and I don't blame you for not remembering 2 weeks ago, this shit has been an ongoing fucking absolute clusterfuck of complete and utter nonsense. So that's what was going on.
And I think the first observation is what's going on is a direct consequence of President Trump's unjustified tariffs against Canada, tariffs that were first levied on Canada and Mexico, and then on the world. And those measures are going to hit a lot of people's savings, including their retirement savings. And as much as this is unfortunate, it was not unforeseen. This is what we have been concerned about. And indeed, this is what we've been trying to warn the President of the United States about. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, so he's referencing and referring to specifically people's like 401ks in America, retirement in Canada. So if that's and that is a concern for people. Right, that is and it should be. Of course it should be. In my opinion, I think it's good that he's like, no, we knew this was going to happen, and we already have a plan for it. So it shows like at least a level of foresight and a level of preparedness that, as of right now, you don't see from the Conservative Party in Canada. Now, I will be clear. Again, we should have a conversation about what is neutral, what are biases, what are yada 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 yada. What does it mean to actually be objective, et cetera, et cetera. So my bias right now is specifically that I do not like Poilievre. But my bias against Poilievre is because I've been watching these things. I've been watching what he's been saying and what he's doing. So it's not exactly a bias in the same way as a bias of like, I don't know, like a bigot. You know what I mean? Like oh, he's black, so I make these assumptions. No. It's a I didn't judge Poilievre until I watched what Poilievre did, and now I have conclusions and thoughts and opinions about Poilievre that tend to be negative leaning. You'll probably see that coming out. I currently have a bias towards Mark Carney because I don't like the Conservative Party right now. I think that there are definitely some things I wouldn't agree with Carney and Carney's policies, but we'll get into those as we go through these. And yeah, Reason to Doubt said, "How is that 2 weeks ago?" My brother, I don't know. Oh no, I'm now a broken man on the Halifax pier. Oh.
There may be some tough days ahead for Canadians, but I also want to reassure that we are prepared. We foresaw this. And borrowing on my experience helping to guide Canada through the 2008 financial crisis and helping the United Kingdom weather the impacts of Brexit, we have been taking steps and we are continuing to take steps to protect Canadians. Today, my plan is to speak about environmental sustainability, and I will get to that in a moment. But This current crisis, financial crisis and economic crisis, reminds us about the other forms of sustainability. And the first is fiscal sustainability, a government that is sustainable. La saine gestion des finances publiques nous évite de mettre une chance.
All right, so I'm just gonna let him keep going as he does the French. My French isn't good enough to translate for you, but from my understanding, he is repeating himself. So yeah, he's got a resume. Mark Carney has a resume. We've covered it before. I did a whole video looking at his resume and his positions up until this point. He spoke against Brexit. He said that he spoke against it as in like he warned people that it was going to be like financially devastating and problematic. They didn't listen to him. He had a very prolific career in finance and national, like, this is the difference, right? There's a difference between a businessman and an economist. He didn't run economics for a singular business. This man has been running economics for nations. So it's a little bit different from your bankruptcy Trump scenario, if you know what I mean. So I think I've talked about this a couple of times, and maybe I'll get a couple, like a panel on, and we'll kind of dive into maybe pick apart some of the nuances of the differences between Canadian and American politics a little bit, and how this whole situation is played out. But I think we have to wait for it to finish playing out first. So I just think I think it'll be a really interesting analysis that can be done, and I think it'll be helpful for people in general. What happened is that Dr. Evil got a hold of Steve Jobs' reality distortion field and has been experimenting. Yeah, right? It does feel like that.
Tout en utilisant les revenus économiques. Sustainability is personal sustainability. In other words, our ability as individuals to provide for ourselves and our families while we're working, during our careers, and into retirement. And President Trump's actions are challenging that personal sustainability by disrupting the global economy, global financial markets, by directly targeting Canadian workers, and by fundamentally reshaping the international trading system.
I would agree with that. Donald Trump has moved rapidly to destabilize world economics. I don't know how much of that is intentional and how much of that, or like to what degree of intentionality is part of that. I know like people who support Trump will be like, no, this was his plan the whole time. This is what we wanted. We wanted to shake things up. And it's like, I mean, okay, but I don't really, maybe I'm wrong, but I get the idea that it seems to me that Trump wanted to throw America's weight around, destabilize things, thinking and assuming that every other country was going to kowtow to him because he bought into the American propaganda machine. So, and there are other countries and people in those countries that have bought into the American propaganda machine. But, so I'm not trying to, like, say anybody's at fault, like, it happens. But, like, it just, things are just not going. So I think there was an intention here. It's just, I don't think the intention has led to the conclusion, or has gone the direction that he's wanted it to go in. I think Mark Carney is a big part of that. And that is something that I do like. One of the things that I do enjoy about this, I will do my best to try to find something about Poilievre that I like, I promise. One thing that I do like about Carney is I do like the way he is handling Donald Trump. I like the way he's handling that. So, business owners can claim bankruptcy. An economist knows a country can't. Yeah, right.
So many Canadians are understandably worried about their jobs and their retirement savings, which is why, anticipating this need, we announced this morning that we will help to protect Canadians' retirement savings from this market uncertainty.
See, that's the thing. This is the thing that's going to sell Carney to people. Anticipating the problem, having a solution, and implementing the solution as soon as, like, when the need arises, right? Having that there's a degree of stability that you can have and a degree of trust that you can put into the government when these things are here, right? When you do these things and you follow through with these things. And this is the thing. Carney has been doing since he became prime minister. And so since he became prime minister, he came in with a plan, he came in with some goals, and he came in with, like, what he wants to do, why he wants to do it, and how he's going to do it. And there's forethought, right? I haven't seen the same thing from the Conservative Party. All I can see from the Conservative Party is the things that I trust the Conservative Party to do is I trust them to drive up the debt. I trust them to cut taxes in a way that is going to filter money up to people who already don't need any more money, and that they're going to cut social programs. Those are the three things that I trust the Conservative Party to do. Now, if that's something that you want and you agree with, like you think those are good things, I mean, then that's the party for you, I guess. I don't know why you want those things. I don't quite understand that, but hey, vote with your heart.
We will reduce the minimum amount that must be withdrawn from registered retirement income funds by 25% for the next year. And the benefit here is that seniors won't have to withdraw as much of their hard-earned savings when markets are volatile, as they will continue to be until this trade war is sorted out. We will also support seniors by temporarily boosting the guaranteed income supplement by 5%. Low-income seniors are amongst the groups that are most vulnerable during times of economic uncertainty and market pressure. These people are on fixed incomes. They don't, in general, have the ability to work. And this boost will help them to weather the storm. Ça s'ajoute aux mesures pour soutenir les travailleurs tout temps que les validés. Une nouvelle offrir is my principal topic.
So that's taking care of our seniors and people who are going to be vulnerable or more vulnerable in these times of crises. And I don't like that I have to keep saying that these are times of crises. I don't like that because it feels like we've never not been in a time of crises. That's what it feels like. Like, there are times where people have called things a time of crises, and I've been like, but, like, why? Fucking why is everything a crisis? Can we stop? No, and the answer is no. The answer is absolutely fucking not. We will not stop, can't stop, won't stop, choo-choo, motherfucker, let's go. So, yeah. I feel like it's you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who doesn't agree with taking care of seniors' investment retirement money during volatile and fluctuating or unstable global markets. Right? So if you don't think that that's something that should happen, please, by all means, tell me why.
The third kind of sustainability is my principal topic for today: environmental sustainability. We are blessed in this country because we are rich in nature. People from all over the world come to visit BC, to visit Vancouver Island, to visit Canada, to enjoy the kind of view we have right here, right now. Although your view is somewhat better than my view, but that's okay. It's not bad. It's not bad, my view, but better that way.
I like that it's also raining. It's like, wow, this wonderful view and this wonderful land. It's just pissing rain.
The natural beauty of our nation is stunning, and our natural heritage is virtually without equal around the world. Just as we Canadians care about our language, we care about our culture, we care for our natural world. As Canadians, nature is our nature. And this wisdom comes to us from Indigenous traditions. As Elder Duke Redbird says in his poem,
Okay, interesting. That's clever. Gotta love the temperate rainforest, yeah, right? That's clever. Okay. Again, to tie Canada's identity, and Canada has spent a lot, Canadian people in government, both conservative or liberal, political party notwithstanding, have sort of been caretakers of the natural resources, like the things going extinct, like bald eagles recovering, things like airdropping wolves into Minnesota. That is that is a very Canadian thing, and to attribute that to First Nations and link how a lot of Canadians feel already, and unite them with historic Indigenous thought processes and culture is a very, very clever political move. I don't know how true that is. I don't know how accurate that is, but that is stewards of the environment. That is a very, very smart political statement. That is going to grab the attention of First Nations people. That is going to grab the attention of people voting for the Green Party. That is going to grab the attention of some of the left-leaning NDP people. That is going to a lot of individual conservatives, if you were to talk to them individually, care about national parks. Look at what happened in America. They cut the national parks and people were like, wait, what? Why are you we want our tax dollars to go to those things. So people care about these things. And so regardless of whether they're a Republican or Democrat, whether they're conservative or liberal. So to do that and then to unite them with this type of language is very clever. Very clever.
The power of the land in every nation, in every clan. The elders to a person, whether woman or a man, shared a common truth, one truth to understand, that the spirit of the people is equal to the power of the land. Malheureusement, il faut se rendre à la biodiversity has fallen. In Canada, our natural capital, including biodiversity, has fallen 40% on a per capita basis, while at the same time, our produced capital has almost doubled in recent decades. In other words, we become twice as wealthy while impoverishing our natural world.
Yeah, so part of that falls to a lot of that falls to the results of Harper's government. The Conservative Party, when they were in power, when they coalesced into one party, got a supermajority, and then had a decade or so in power, they spent a lot of time fucking with our selling off chunks and large portions of water access and of conservation areas to businesses like Nestle, which have been in court, by the way. I'll probably cover this at some other point where we can talk about Nestle being sued in Canada, and I think there's two major lawsuits. One is in Quebec, one is in Ontario, if I'm remembering correctly, but don't quote me on that. You'll have to go back and look. So we'll see.
This is what we mean when we talk about sustainability. No country can endlessly draw down on its nature to enrich itself. And now our natural heritage is facing a new threat. President Trump's unjustified tariffs come with threats to our sovereignty that have one goal behind them: to weaken Canada, to break us so that America can own us. to take our greatest strengths, our resources, our water, our land, our country. That will never happen. Canada is not America. America is a melting pot. Canada is a mosaic, because we value diversity. In America, healthcare is a big business. In Canada, it is a right, because we value solidarity. America is increasingly about the here and now. Canada is forward-looking and future-focused, because we value sustainability.
So that's interesting, because I would generally agree with that based on our policies as opposed to like our fucking individual parties. So like if you look at like Canada's participation, like even if you look at Canada's military participation, right? Canada's military participation and foreign policies are very much focused on long-term both sustainability and long-term like global effect. So if you look at those things, then yes, I would agree that generally as a nation that tends to be the way we sort of look at things. Did Trudeau plant the trees? All of them? No. Did he plant the trees? I don't know. Did Trudeau plant the trees? Which trees? Yes. Yes, he magically, like a fairy, skipped across Canada, shitting trees. That's where all of our trees came from.
And that's why it was Canada who brought the world together and brokered the Montreal Protocol in the 1980s, which saved the ozone layer under Brian Mulroney. It's why Canada hosted COP15 2 years ago under Justin Trudeau, which led to landmark agreements on biodiversity.
Oh yeah, he didn't just plant the trees in Canada, he planted all the trees across the world.
Diversity and nature preservation. At the center of those agreements is a commitment to protect 30% of our lands and 30% of our waters by 2030. And why did we do this? Because
yeah, see, long-term sustainability plans, things that are going to 2030, things that are planning to 2050, things that are planning like 50 to 70 years in advance. You're thinking of Johnny Appleseed? No, Johnny Appleseed was only planting apple trees. Trudeau is more powerful. Trudeau is like the patron of Johnny Appleseed. Trudeau can plant every type of tree just by sneezing in a direction.
We as Canadians value sustainability in all of its forms. We recognize that although we're not always perfect, we haven't always been perfect stewards of the land, we always strive to be good. And we strive to do things not because they're easy, but because they are right. We must earn our right to take from the environment while always respecting and nourishing it. And that's why a new Liberal government will pursue a bold new nature strategy with smart approaches to preserve our natural habitat and to use our finite financial resources to maximum impact. Pour ça.
Using our resources effectively in a smart way to maximize financial impact. Yeah, that really does sound like Carney's version of Canada being poverty and limited resources. Here's the thing. All resources are limited. Unless you can build them and sustain them in an effective manner. If you do not have sustainability, you will run yourself out of that resource. Fishing, logging, planting, oil, every resource has to be maintained if you want them to last any length of time, right? That's just the way resources work. So, that's just the way it works. All right, let's switch over to Poilievre and see what he has to say.
Okay, great.
Oh, sorry, I'm just gonna skip through this. We had a giggle about how they fucked this poor man over last time we looked at this with this fucking podium. Good God. This is so embarrassing, but let's take a look at Poilievre. I'm just gonna skip ahead until we actually get to him. Blah, 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 blah. There we go. He makes a joke about this guy being short.
So, thank you very much for a great prayer and a wonderful land acknowledgement to welcome us to this great land of yours. And merci beaucoup à Ellis Ross, un grand chef autochtone du Canada, le C-60, la loi naturelle, les devoirs américains, tenir tête convoi.
Again, my French isn't good enough. I'm not going to try to translate it for you, but from my understanding, he's just repeating himself.
Ellis Ross is our great candidate for this region. He is a former MLA. He is also the former first councillor of the Haisla First Nation, who personally helped negotiate the single biggest infrastructure project in Canadian history. LNG Canada, 40.
So you mean the Liberals bought a pipeline? You mean that the Liberals negotiated and bought a pipeline, and it was one of the biggest projects in Canadian history? One of the biggest infrastructure projects, and it was a pipeline. You'll notice that what you'll notice when it comes to a lot of rhetoric and a lot of propaganda is people will say that liberals hate oil, or liberals will not let oil happen, or they're restricting oil, yada yada yada. You'll notice that Carney has not said don't use oil at all, ever. He's never said that. He said moving away from it, but yeah, that's economy. You'll notice where are oil companies investing right now? And again, future things. It doesn't mean don't use the resources we currently have access to in an effective manner. But this is the difference, right? You have conservatives saying, let's use everything to make as much money right now as possible, and then burning it out so it doesn't exist anymore, with zero plan as to what it looks like in the future. And the liberals right now are presenting a plan that says, hey, listen, we're going to use this resource. However, we're going to use it in a way that maximizes its financial impact and creates a sustainable situation for 50 years down the line, so that way we will still have resources to utilize and make money off in the future. We're talking the difference between short-term and long-term planning, because there is no long-term planning in the conservative set right now.
$1 billion of investment brought to this region because of his leadership, with First Nations being the primary beneficiaries. I need Ellis Ross on Parliament Hill helping me land more $40 billion LNG plants for our people nationwide on all the coasts. And I can't wait to bring the incredible riches to the Haisla, the Kitsala, the Niska, the Squamish, and countless other coastal First Nations who want to build LNG export terminals. They know.
Okay, so besides the fact that sounds cringy as fuck, what's the plan, though? What happens when the oil runs out? What's the plan? Because it's not gonna last forever, and who are you selling it to? Because again, this also took place on April 7th, right? In Vancouver. So who are you selling the oil to? Because every other country is also moving to sustainable things and trying to rely less on oil and less on gas. So, who's gonna be buying it?
That Prime Minister Harper was right to approve LNG Canada. They know that project could only have happened without C-69.
Feline makes a good point in the chat. $40 billion Canadian for the people? Sure, Jan. I doubt most Canadians see a penny from that. Well, okay, so if you want to talk about, like, the richness of how much money you can have off of oil, right? Look at Alberta. How rich do Albertans feel right now? How rich is your average Albertan individual? And that's under conservative leadership, just to be clear. Danielle Smith is a conservative. She's a Maple MAGA conservative, same as Poilievre. And she's been in power for a length of time. She's not new. So, are you sure? Are you sure that that's what's going to work for you? Because it doesn't seem to be working anywhere else.
Anti-development liberal law that Mark Carney wants to keep in place. But speaking of economic matters, we are all watching the stock market with interest today. We have to acknowledge that this chaos is the direct result of wrong-headed, unnecessary, chaotic policies coming from President Trump. These tariffs are a massive distraction, and they remind us why it was such a mistake for the Liberals to make us so dependent on the Americans over the lost Liberal decade.
Okay, drink for lost Liberal decade. But, no, Trudeau spent time untangling us from America's, and being so reliant on America's stuff. Canada has been untangling itself from America for a long time. It's just a very slow process. Trump just made it very easy for everybody to pull the trigger on stuff that they've already been working on. So, that was already happening and not something that the Liberals did. If you want to talk about, having ties with America and American companies, again, you're gonna have to look at Stephen Harper. You're gonna have to look at what Stephen Harper did, what he's doing now. It's laughably corrupt. It's like they're not even trying to hide it. It is just laughably corrupt. But yeah, no, that's not the case. That's not what happened. I don't know what to tell you. That's just a lie.
Now, obviously, Mark Carney will be trotting out his trophy titles and the...
Brandy, you're dodging the question. You can try again, though.
Inflated hype around his false resume claims on this day. But let's be...
False resume claims? So we just watched Carney on the same day rattle off some of his resume, right? The 2008 financial crisis, the trying to assist and mitigate the issues with Brexit, right? How are those false? What's the lie? Was he not there during Brexit? Was he not there during the 2008 financial crisis? Because he was. So what's the lie? What's the false resume claims? What are you talking about, dude?
Be clear, at this time, the last thing we need is to take a risk on the failed ideas of Mark Carney. Mark Carney has been wrong about every major economic issue of our time. He was wrong to support carbon taxes. He was wrong to oppose pipelines. He was wrong 4 years ago when he said the biggest risk to the world was deflation and proposed hundreds of billions of dollars of money printing. He was wrong when he caused the inflation crisis in Great Britain.
Huh? What, Carney? Carney caused the inflation crisis in Great Britain? Carney did Brexit? Yeah, by the way, I have talked about this before, but I figured I'd pull it up just because Brandy's fucking stupid. Alberta municipalities could go bankrupt in 5 to 10 years if affordability doesn't change. It doesn't have to be higher than the national average, Brandy. Try again. It's about your buying power in your province. Again, we're back to conservatives don't know how to do math. After blasting the federal government for its oil and gas emissions plan, Premier Danielle Smith got an earful from rural Alberta leaders frustrated by the province's unpaid taxes, piecemeal policing plans, and high electricity fees. Quote, in the next 5 to 10 years, if things are status quo and do not change, you will see municipalities going bankrupt, said Paul McLaughlin, president of the Rural Municipalities of Alberta, at the organization's convention in Edmonton on Tuesday. Quote, it's a fundamental reality. I tell people that they think it's for dramatic effect. I know the books. I know the books of my members. I know how their finances work. They are slipping backwards. That is reality. The municipalities are going bankrupt. Hey, you remember a couple of days ago? You want to talk about Alberta for a second? Hold on. You guys remember? Let me pull this up. Oh no. No. It's okay. Want another one? Parents of Alberta kids undergoing cancer treatment told to bring their own snacks. Alberta Health Services is facing criticism from parents who have children undergoing outpatient cancer treatment over what appears to be a cost-cutting measure, now requiring them to bring their own snacks, drinks, and other foods to the clinic. Quote, these kids are already going through hell, so to no longer offer them popsicles, soda pop, or other snacks, quote, seems like such a silly thing, said Amanda Moppet, whose 11-year-old son is battling brain cancer. She described them as small, colorful pieces of joy on what could be a torturous day for the children and their families. She said she learned about the new AHS policy on Friday when she took her son in for the latest round of chemotherapy. That can last up to 8 hours and sometimes includes a lumbar puncture to check for cancer cells in spinal fluid. The new policy is also frustrating for Bree, who has a 15-month-old daughter who is undergoing outpatient chemotherapy for cancer in both of her eyes. Quote, these kids are going through horrible times and you're going to take away food of all things. Yeah, how you doing, Alberta? Are you sure? Are you fucking sure? Because at this point, you live in a fucking alternate reality. An alternate reality.
And the housing crisis in that country. He's been universally condemned by the British media, even though back here in Canada, the media covers up his failed record and his terrible reputation in the United Kingdom. We cannot afford a fourth Liberal term of Mark Carney driving up spending.
How dare you? 1 second. This is just specifically for Brandy. Specifically for Brandy. Here you go. This is for you. This is just for you. Just for you. Just for you. Just for you.
To my home uninvited and tell me how I should arrange my furniture. What a fool you are! Skeleton divine death.
Brandy, you selfish bitch. Your kid had a good time, therefore there's no problem. Your kid had a good time, therefore people shouldn't be upset that food is getting taken out of the mouths of cancer-ridden children. You had an okay time, therefore all of this is okay and we shouldn't be outraged by this? Are you serious? This is again, we're back to conservatives don't care about anybody. They have no empathy. They don't know how to do math. They don't fucking give a shit about anybody but themselves. Well, I had a good time, so I don't fucking care if my municipalities go bankrupt. I don't care if fucking kids don't get snacks with the cancer, because my kid got enough snacks. Whatever the fuck that means. Fuck you! Take your dystopian fucking nightmare and get the fuck out. Go bootlick somewhere else. You're fucking immoral and disgusting. How fucking dare you?
Money printing, taxes, and inflation while blocking our resource projects. We cannot afford that risk. We need a new conservative government for a change that will axe taxes, greenlight construction of homes, mines, pipelines.
Yeah, but it's okay. Trudeau didn't plant enough trees, guys. Fuck off. You are not a serious person. Get out of here.
G plants bring home our jobs so that we can reinforce our economic fortress against the...
It was probably a one-off. Did you not listen? Hey, can you not read? No, you're a conservative. You can't read. Let me reread this for you. Alberta Health Services. That's the whole province, dumbass. That's the whole province. That's the entire province cutting this. The fact that it happened at all, that it was this was either so negligent into what it was actually cutting, and they were just sweeping cutting things that they did this. Like, are you fucking serious? Just excuse after why are you excusing politicians? Why are you excusing people for taking fucking food out of cancer-ridden children's mouths? Like, what are you thinking? Like, actually, what is wrong with you? What in the fuck are you talking about? That is morally reprehensible. But did Trudeau plant trees? Did Trudeau plant trees? What the fuck are you talking about? Are we talking about Trudeau? What does Trudeau have to do with fucking Mark Carney versus Poilievre? You guys are fucking obsessed. And it's insanity. Go and tell that to one of these mothers, or one of these parents, and go tell that to one of those kids. You can go. Say, hey, listen, my kid was fine, so you guys should stop being so upset. Go ahead. See how that goes.
The Americans. In the short term, my government has already proposed an immediate response to help our seniors. We've proposed to delay by 2 years the time when seniors must withdraw their savings from their RSP and be taxed on it. This 2-year delay will save many seniors from being forced to crystallize losses they're experiencing on the stock market today.
So what Poilievre is talking about here is the thing that Carney addressed at the beginning of his as well, with a more comprehensive plan that wasn't just a delay, right? So Carney had had already implemented the plan the day that Poilievre did this press release, which means Poilievre is behind the curve on this. This is something that was already addressed and dealt with by Carney and the Liberal Party, with, again, a more effective and comprehensive plan than simply just a 2-year delay. Again, I would like to remind you, we don't know how long this trade war is going to last. We don't know if it's going to get worse or if it's going to get better at the drop of a hat. So having a plan that is limited to 2 years and will have to be reestablished and gone over 2 years from now, but also long-lasting effects of economic change in the global market, which Poilievre does not seem to have wrapped his head around.
We know that seniors should not pay the price for.
And yeah, Smitty makes a good point. Just planting trees is not a reasonable approach to reforesting. It is a reasonable approach to logging companies getting tax money to fund their tree farms. Yeah, planting trees doesn't fix climate change. Planting trees is not sustainability. That's not what those things mean. But it doesn't, again, we're back to, it does not surprise me that conservatives have no fucking clue about anything they're fucking talking about. They never do. They don't know what they're talking about. If you equate environmental sustainability to Trudeau needs to plant trees, you don't know what you're talking about. Read a book. Read a book.
Donald Trump's economic vandalism over the last several days, and that is why we will allow our seniors.
I like economic vandalism. That's a good phrase for it. I like economic vandalism.
To keep their money invested until they regain their lost amounts. We've also announced that we will allow seniors who choose to work to earn up to $34,000 tax-free. That's $10,000 more than right now.
So Carney's plan is make sure these people don't have to go to work by protecting their investments, and his plan is to delay paying taxes on the money that you're pulling out by 2 years. Not no taxes, just delay the taxes for 2 years. And send seniors back to work. Guys. So the plan, again, for a 1-to-1 comparison, Carney says he wants to let these people and keep their investments in and not have to have them go back to work, recognizing that some of them can't go back to work because they're seniors and they're retired and they shouldn't have to, and to protect and stabilize those seniors' investments and keep them safe so they don't get affected by or damaged by Trump's tariffs, right? That's his plan. Poilievre's plan is delay the taxes for pulling it out, so by 2 years, which all that does is kick the can down the road and still requires these still requires those seniors to pay those additional taxes. It's just 2 years from now, and have seniors go back to work. So what if they can't work? And why should they? Why should they have to go back to work due to Trump's vandalism? This is not a plan. And especially not a plan for working people. That's not a plan for seniors. That's not going to work. That's going to destitute people. You want it? Who was it earlier in the chat that said that Carney has the plan that's going to impoverish people? Did you hear this? Are you kidding me? This is going to impoverish people. A lot of people, and a lot of old people, and people who are going to retire in the next couple of years while this trade war happens and while this global restructuring of the market happens. If you think that Trump just stopping the tariffs means all of this goes away and everything goes back to normal, you are sorely mistaken. And I'm going to go back to conservatives don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And you don't know... See, conservatives don't know what they're talking about, have no idea about the nuances of any of these topics or fields of study, and don't know how to do math, and are clearly incapable of having conversation. They just say random, awful, morally reprehensible shit. And then are just like, what do you mean? It's like, what do you mean, what do I mean? You're just like, let kids with cancer starve. Fuck you. Huh? What? The fuck's wrong with you?
Je veux dire, premièrement, quelques mots à propos du chaos des marchés financiers auxquels les Canadiens et le reste du monde font face.
Skip to the French.
C'est le résultat direct des tard de
The conservatives are morally bankrupt.
Proposons contribuer à la construction de traits, c'est-à-dire et accès. Je sais que nous allons protéger le dollar. Donc, there's no reason why we as Canadians cannot be the richest country in the world. We have the most resources, the most land, the most coastline per capita, pretty much any other country on earth. Well, there is one reason we're not the richest in the world. It's the lost liberal decade.
Huh? What? The liberals are why we're not rich? Again, tell that to Alberta that is going bankrupt, that is run by a conservative. It's not, no. No, that's no. Wait, no. Should I just start calling Harper the lost conservative decade? Is that what I should? Again, we're back to his only plan is tax cuts and trickle-down economics, which don't work. One of the reasons is population. Yeah, the tiny population. And one of the reasons why we have a small population is because of a plethora of reasons. And a lot of that has to do with infrastructure investment. So, it's okay though. Allegedly, Alberta's got new roads. Ooh.
Hike taxes on investment, energy, work, home building, and of course they passed C-69, the anti-development law that Mark Carney says he wants to keep in place.
C-69 is not an anti-development law. Bill C-69 is a bill that says you can do whatever you want, but you have to keep your emissions under a certain level. So you can produce and pull as much as you want, but your emissions have to be below, like they have a cap on it. So if you can't do that, you're not allowed. You're not allowed to breach that ceiling. That's what Bill C-69 is. It has nothing. This is Jordan Peterson shit. This is just blatantly misrepresenting a bill in office, and to the point of dishonesty, which makes me wonder one thing, because it either has to be dishonest or he doesn't know what he's talking about. So if he doesn't know what he's talking about, like he's just got it wrong, then you have somebody who's been in politics for 20 plus years as like his main thing, and he doesn't know how to read a bill. Or he doesn't understand what a bill, the application of a bill that has been active for a while. So, yeah, that's not what that is. That is just a lie.
They have also capped our energy production. As soon as Justin Trudeau and his economic advisor Mark Carney got their hands on Canada's resource policy, they began blocking projects.
That is also a lie.
They blocked $178 billion of resource projects in the last decade. Mr. Carney has said, and I quote,
You got a citation for that, buddy? you got a citation for me for that one?
more than 80% of current fossil fuel reserves would need to stay in the ground. End quote. Unfortunately, this is the...
Wow, one sentence from one thing.
Mr. Carney has said, and I quote, more than 80% of current fossil fuel reserves would need to stay in the ground. And
why is that wrong? Or under what context? Again, citation please. Where did he say this? When did he say this? Under what context? Yeah, let's drop the citation needed. Let's see if I can get the, let me see if I can find the quote, right? Right? Can we find the quote? 80% of current fossil fuel reserves would need to stay in the ground. Carney quote. Okay, well, the Conservative Party is the first one that pops up. Green economic law comes up next. All right, The Guardian, October 13th, 2014. All right. Bank of England, Carney, most fossil fuel reserves can't be burned. Bank of England governor lends his support to carbon bubble theory that coal, gas, and oil assets are at risk. Oh, interesting. So, what does this say? The governor of the Bank of England has reiterated his warning that fossil fuel companies cannot burn all of their reserves if the world is to avoid catastrophic climate change. And calls for investors to consider the long-term impact of their decisions. According to reports, Carney told a World Bank seminar on integrated reporting on Friday that, quote, vast majority of reserves are unburnable if global temperature rises are to be limited to below 2 degrees Celsius. Carney is the latest high-profile figure to lend his weight to the carbon bubble theory, which warns that fossil fuel assets such as coal, oil, and gas could be significantly devalued if a global deal to tackle climate change is reached. Which means all of these ideas, which is by all of which I mean the one idea of making Canada rich off of investing a shitload of money into pulling a bunch of oil out of the ground, thus flooding the market with oil, is not going to be a good long-term financial fucking decision because it's going to get devalued due to climate change things being done for climate change around the world. So that includes things like the Paris Accords, right? If other countries are trying to reduce their carbon footprint, then they're not going to want to buy or invest in oil. Wow, he said something completely fucking reasonable based on science that makes sense. The movement has gained traction in recent weeks, with the World Bank leading an initiative with 73 national governments, 11 regional governments, and more than 1,000 businesses and investors to build support for a global price on carbon emissions during the United Nations Climate Summit in New York. At the same time, the Global Investment Divest Coalition of more than 160 institutions and local governments, as well as more than 500 individuals together, pledged to divest $50 billion from fossil fuel investments within the next 3 to 5 years and reinvest in new clean energy sources. Guys, the future of energy is not in oil. It's not in coal. It's not in natural gas. That doesn't mean remove it entirely. That doesn't mean it has no use at all. It means that it's not a sustainable long-term investment because everybody is moving away from utilizing these things. So if Pierre Poilievre's plan to just pump in billions and billions and billions, thus raising the fucking debt of Canada, right? That's going to raise the national debt to bring in companies that are going to make profit and investing all this money into a dying product. You're going to, like, what happened to Alberta? Bankrupting municipalities? This is not fiscally reasonable. This is not fiscally responsible. This has a zero. This is bad investment. It doesn't mean never invest anything. It doesn't mean Canada shouldn't spend money. It means that Canada should spend money in the right places for the right things at the right time. And oil ain't it, motherfucker. Again, the Liberals are the one who put in the fucking pipeline behind him. The pipeline he's praising was something that the Liberals did. So anybody out here being like, oh, the Liberals won't do anything, the Liberals are capping this, so what? The Liberals are capping it, but you're praising the one that they did do? What are you fucking talking about?
Quote, unfortunately, this is the one promise that the Liberals have not broken. They brought in an industrial carbon tax and C-69, the no pipelines, no development law.
The no development law except for the pipeline right behind me that they developed. Are you stupid? Conservatives are fucking stupid. I'm sorry. You're fucking stupid. If you're following this guy and you're believing this guy and you're voting for this guy, you're a fucking moron. He's literally lying to your face, well, with the backdrop being the thing that he's lying to you about, and you are too dumb to notice.
And they've capped energy production in Canada. Mr. Carney says he wants to keep all those three policies in place. Avec toutes nos ressources naturelles, le Canada devrait les dernières années 8 milliards de les libéraux ont introduit ces GMPs, same liberal.
All right, so we're about 15 minutes on him. Let's go back to Carney and see what Carney is saying.
Il faut tout d'abord identifier les endroits et les gens riches d'ici. Expanded protected areas. In the past decade, we have expanded protected areas from 1% to 15%, and protected waters from 1% to just under 17%.
So the lost liberal decade has been about sustaining, long-term sustaining, and rectifying some of the damage that was done by Harper when it came to selling off Canadian resources, like willy-nilly to major corporations. Again, go look at anywhere Nestle has been allowed to do things in Canada and look at the local area and tell me how it's going. Flint, Michigan called.
We're making good progress. And to help get the rest of the way there, I'm announcing that a new Liberal government will move forward with 10 new national parks and marine conservation areas.
10 new national parks and marine conservation areas. That's huge.
Along with creating 15 new national urban parks across Canada.
So a national urban park would be like a local conservation area.
At the same time, we will make national parks and historic sites free for all Canadians this upcoming summer.
I mean, that's nice. I like it when they do that. That's great. We've done that a couple of times. Was it just before COVID? A little bit before COVID, Trudeau did this. did that as well and made it free to go to the national parks. So, I'm down for that. I like that. Getting people back out and about and fucking actually interacting with each other and touching grass is, I'm pro that. I'm pro that thing. Go touch some grass.
I know when I was growing up in Edmonton, Jasper National Park, Canada's crown jewel, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, by the way, dipshit, do you live here? Motherfuckers grew up in Edmonton.
I know, we'll get some debate from behind me, maybe in front of me as well, but my crown jewel, Canada's crown jewel, Jasper National Park, was almost like a second home, and it's certainly where I made lasting memories. But creating new parks and making all our parks more accessible will help ensure that every Canadian will be able to experience the beauty of our great nation, just as I did. Now, to protect Canada's lands, our waters, and our wildlife, we must turn first to First Nations, Inuit, and Métis leadership. Indigenous peoples are the first stewards of this land. And that's why my government will support Indigenous-led conservation projects and expand Indigenous Guardians programs to include Arctic Indigenous Guardians to safeguard our North.
I like that. I like that idea. I think that makes complete sense. I think that's a really good way to bridge gaps and build bridges between Canada and the First Nations peoples, giving them positions of power, giving them opportunities, giving the I'm all for this. I like this idea. I think that's great. Hey, Landon.
We will also reintroduce legislation at the first opportunity to enshrine First Nations' right to safe, clean, and reliable drinking water under law. Pour protéger la faune du Canada, de action des intimidés. Now, priorité come. Our new plan recognizes one undeniable fact. Protecting nature and fighting climate change are intimately linked. Our soils, our oceans, our
That's true. That's a fact.
trees are the best stores of carbon that we have. In fact, nature-based solutions could get us, as a world, almost 1/3 of the way to reducing our emissions and helping to stave off the worst effects of climate change.
Yeah, so you can have a debate about what the worst effects of climate change are, but you're talking about like famines, droughts, really bad weather that just ruins crops. So like you're talking like people are going to starve. There's going to be a lot of that. So and he's right. There I saw recently that there was a project in, was it Okinawa? Was it Okinawa? Where was this? It was Okinawa! Oh my god, I'm fucking good. I'm a goddamn brainlet. Coral farming to help restore dying reefs. Hope in the Water is fishery biology partnership makes progress in Okinawa, Okinawa coral recovery. Coral reefs are in trouble between pollution, blah, blah, blah. Rising sea temperatures is a really big fucking deal. And acidification. Coral systems throughout the world's oceans are severely declining and some have disappeared. However, collaborative efforts by Okinawan fishermen, coral scientists at Okinawa Institute of Science and Technology Graduate University, OIST, and the Atmosphere and Ocean Research Institute, AORI, at the University of Tokyo have boosted hopes for restoring coral systems. Coral reefs are the most biologically diverse habitat in the ocean, supporting huge range of life, blah, 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 blah. In Okinawa Prefecture, a dire warning came from Japan's largest coral reef, Sekisai? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, sorry. Lagoon, where a survey by the Ministry of Environment found that 50% of the coral had died due to bleaching by the end of December 2016. That aligns with global surveys, which show that 19% of the world's coral coverage has been lost between 1998 and 2008. In Okinawa, coral fishermen have acted upon this existential threat, banding together to become coral farmers. Much like planting trees to restore damaged forests, coral reefs can be repaired by settling captive-reared corals in damaged reefs, working with groups called the Ona Village Fisheries Cooperative. In 1998, the fishers started their own mini forests of coral colonies mounted on metal supports. Recent paper published in Restoration Ecology outlines a collaboration between the fishermen and scientists from OIST and AORI, co-authored by Yuna Zayasu of OIST's Marine Genomics Unit, led by Professor Noriyuki Sato. The study analyzes farmed coral systems cultivated by the fishermen with the aims of repopulating the reefs. So, yeah. If you want to talk about science, and you want to talk about listening to scientists, and you want to talk about climate change, which is a thing that is happening, and it's something that we need to deal with, as well as our CO emissions and our emission issues, he's right.
And at the same time, on the other hand, climate change threatens to irreversibly harm our natural environment. Only by fighting climate change can we protect our natural environment. And only by protecting our natural environment can we protect ourselves, our planet, our future from the threat of climate change. So globally, Canada will work to establish international standards for voluntary carbon markets. That will allow those who choose to protect and conserve our environment in order to fight climate change to be compensated for doing so. We understand that values determine value. Canada intends to take a leadership role at the upcoming climate change conference in the Brazilian Amazon, where I know that nature-based solutions will be front and center.
I mean, yeah, that of course they would be. That makes sense. There's a lot of rainforest issues that need addressing. Gotta stop the ocean acidification from CO2 to be long-term successful with coral reefs. Oh yeah, it's a complicated process. No one thing is going to help. But the fact that they're already working on this, and you have things like the Paris Accords and things like the this meeting in Brazil to try, like I said, when Poilievre is talking about how he wants to make money for Canada and wants to make us rich, he wants to burn oil. He wants to go get oil, bring it up, and sell it and make bank. That's his plan. He's going to invest a bunch of money, build a bunch of pipelines, but he's not going to be able to sell it to anybody. These are global programs. These are global initiatives that are being done by nations. Being done by local governments, government, like mid-sized governments, national projects. Who the fuck are you going to sell it to as everybody moves away from oil? Nobody! You're just gonna waste a bunch of fucking taxpayer money on something we can't use and it's gonna be worth fucking peanuts. Assholes! This is not fucking financially intelligent. It has no forethought to it whatsoever. It's just like, yeah, oil is worth money. Print money forever. Like, no, that's not how it no, that's not how investment works.
La nature est au courant the other day. You know, a young child wrote to me the other day that they, and I quote, dream of a Canada where there are many forests and lakes, and that we protect those forests, oceans, and lakes. And that student understands the assignment that we all share, that our environment is our responsibility, and our nature as Canadians is nature.
Can I point out, we're nearly at 20 minutes of Carney's speech, and he hasn't brought up Poilievre or the Conservatives once at all yet. He's talking about his own policies and what he wants to do, whereas Poilievre didn't make it 30 seconds before, like, fucking talking about Trudeau. And you'll notice that, like, the fucking, in the comment section, the people that came in that were conservative and then subsequently ran away when I told them off for being factually wrong, the first thing they did was bring up Mark Carney. The first thing they did was bring up Trudeau. Those are the first things that they said. They do not have a plan. They do not have an argument for why anybody should vote for Poilievre. All they have is Carney bad, Trudeau bad, for reasons. Trudeau didn't plant enough trees because I don't understand anything about climate change. Those are not... Tell me why I should vote for Poilievre. Tell me why I should. What reason should I vote for Poilievre based on Poilievre alone?
We are Canada. We are Canada sustainable. We are Canada strong. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll now begin the question period. We'll do 15 minutes to delegation.
All right, so he's going to go into the question period, so let's jump back over to Poilievre.
It's the same Liberal ministers, same Liberal GNL Québec pour le futur. It's the same Liberal ministers, same Liberal MPs, same Liberal policies, and it will have the same Liberal results.
Okay, so here's the thing. What was Carney supposed to do? Admittedly, Carney has the same like his picks were all of Trudeau's picks, right? Like so, like his ministers, the people that he's got set up. But what was he supposed to do? He was a prime minister who was voted in, who was only going to be like if the election was to happen when it was scheduled, he would have been prime minister from January to October. Was he supposed to bring in a whole new fucking team to work for half a year? Or did it, and then he ended up calling the election in April, which he likely thought ahead of time that he was going to do. So what was Mark Carney supposed to do? Bring in a whole new fucking team for 3 months? That makes no sense. This is a damned if you do, damned if you don't. If he picked new people, he would have been like, it would have been like a whole, he would have had to do, and they would have had to do so much work, as opposed to just using the same people for a couple of months while he's the prime minister, while we do the election. Like, that's just pragmatism. That's just not wasting a bunch of fucking time for no reason. And Poilievre's out here like, oh, why didn't you waste more time? I'm like, huh? What? Why would we do that? What? That doesn't make... Why would we do that? Alberta needs to look ahead and use the economy they have because of oil to diversify to alternate means while they have the... while they have the chance to do so. Absolutely, yeah. No, they're screwing themselves. I'm not gonna... No qualms for me about that. And that's... Well, that's what you get. Like, why are you voting for... Danielle Smith is a climate change denier. Like what? I don't know what to tell you.
The Liberal war on Canada's resource economy has...
Yeah, win the election before doing a cabinet shuffle makes sense. Right, exactly. So, like, will he pick the same people? I don't know. Maybe some of them will be the same, maybe some of them won't. The problem is there's also this other issue that Poilievre is trying to do. Because Trudeau was so unpopular in the last 5 years because of mostly slander campaigns funded by Russia and assisted by Poilievre and the Conservative Party. I wonder why you won't get a security clearance. He's trying to tie Carney to Trudeau. And here's the thing. A lot of Trudeau's policies worked. Whether you like the carbon tax or not, it functioned. It was working. And sometimes, when you're the prime minister, you have to do something and make a decision that is good for the economy, good for the country, good for our natural resources, and unpopular with people. That's the hot and dry. It's not working for Poilievre. Nothing works for Poilievre. The Nair stuff. Did you guys notice that he stopped when Trudeau was in office? He was always dyeing his hair dark, and now that Carney's got his silver locks, Trudeau fucking Poilievre over here suddenly got gray hair. Petro Alberta is focused on current profits while pretending that the oil economy will last forever. And bankrupting their municipalities in the process.
Has been devastating, just as the Liberals intended. Between 2015 and 2020, they killed 16 more.
What? Okay, I have a question. I don't mean to be rude, but I have a question. Why would the Liberals intentionally do this? Like, what reasons does the Liberal Party have to intentionally drive down Canada's economy? If let's play with the hypothetical, because that's not true. The debt when Trudeau took office was, let me double check that for you. When Harper left office, the national debt hold on, that's not what I want. Let's see. Beginning of February, the tax policy is 10 years, average 6%. No, I want the total number. Harper got into office in 2006, right? 2006. The national debt of 2006 was $481.5 billion. All right? From my understanding. Here's the fiscal year. 2004 to 2008, right? Okay? So if I then jump to 2015, which was when he left office, Canada's national debt jumped to 92.03% of its GDP. Holy fuck ass. Does this have like a big thing on it? That'd be cool. Nah. All right. So 2014 to 2015. Budgetary deficit, but that's not, the budgetary deficit isn't the total. The federal debt was at 612.3 billion. All right? So you're talking about in the 10 years that Harper was in office, the national debt went from 481.5 billion to 612.3 billion. Right? And so when Trudeau left office, he resigned, it would have been 2024. 2024. So the debt in 2024 went to... Well, this is fiscal year of 2023. Nope, that's the wrong thing. Hold on. Fiscal year of 2023. Total revenues increased 2.6%. May of 2024. Net losses, program expense, COVID-19, public debt. Absent these expenses, the 2023-24 budgetary deficit would have been around $40.8 billion. In the 10 years of Harper increased it by $200 billion. In the 10 years that Trudeau had, he reduced it to $40.8 billion. That is a massive fucking number. This is if you disregard COVID, and I think disregarding COVID is fair, right? A deficit of so if you add in COVID stuff, you're looking at $61.9 billion for fiscal year. So, all these people that bitch about Trudeau spending money, he brought the debt down by a considerable fucking number. And Harper increased it by a considerable fucking number. So when you're talking about this shit, please, for the love of God, know what the hell you're talking about. So in what world did the Liberals do what he's describing they did, driving our country into the ground? Because that is clearly fiscally not the case. And that's not even, like, you could go back other years, too. You don't have to use Harper. I'm just using Harper because he was the most recent and had a considerably long tenure. He was in office for 10 years.
The Liberal war on Canada's resource economy has been devastating, just as the Liberals intended. Between 2015 and 2020...
Bitch! Where?
They killed 16 monster resource projects amounting to over $170 billion of lost investment in our economy. It now takes 17 years to get a project in mining approved, nearly 25% longer than in Australia and 40% longer in the States.
I need a citation, and I would like to point out that we don't want to be like America. America is notoriously bad for managing their natural resources. Notoriously bad. So why would we want... Again, why... This is so tone-deaf. This is an April 7th, 2025. April 7th, 2025 was like the big fucking fuck you everybody that America did with tariffs. Why would you then go on to go do a press release that says we should be better than, we should be doing 40% longer than in the States, and compare that like that's a good fucking thing? Yeah, so the Liberals aren't incompetent. It was their intent to destroy Canada, which clearly hasn't happened.
This was by design. Liberals don't like these projects.
It's a conspiracy!
Radical environmental ideology prevents it from...
Radical environmental ideology? Like what, climate change exists? And our natural resources should be sustainably managed so we have ongoing profit on long-term plans? No, what's radical is building pipelines across, investing a shitload of money into a dying product that has a limited amount of usage and shoots yourself in the foot when you're using it. Driving the planet to the brink of extinction is pretty fucking extreme, if you ask me, and saying, hey, maybe don't do that, is not a radical environmental ideology, you fucking psycho. What the hell? Huh? What?
From happening. We should be selling our resources to the world, breaking dependence on Putin and other foreign dictators, and going around the Americans. Canadian oil and clean natural gas should be displacing coal and reducing emissions worldwide by allowing India and other Asian countries to use our gas instead of dirty coal.
You're going to try to sell oil to India. You know Saudi Arabia's right there. How are you gonna pitch this in a business meeting? Hey, listen, spend a shitload more money. By the way, the Alberta oil is like a really specific kind of oil. Yeah, he wants to sell to India to undermine Russia. Well, there's already sanctions on Russia, by the way, right now, and Germany, who did sign a pipeline with Russia and a deal with Russia, has long since fucking done some shit with that. So, what? Like, what the fuck? Huh?
But now we export 98% of our energy to the Americans at massive price discounts.
So that's an interesting thing. So we do give, as part of our agreements with America, we sell them stuff at a discount. That's true. That's been that way for a very, very, very long time. But you'll notice, again, this was April 7th, April 7th, 2025. This is after Carney, as prime minister, had said our agreements with America or with the Americans is over. Is Poilievre really trying to lean on old, long-standing deals that existed when Harper was in office? By the way, Harper had 10 years. He didn't change that. He didn't do anything about that. So the Conservatives had a majority and the opportunity to make any changes to that, and they didn't. Why? So, in that regard, if the Liberals are already saying that they're planning on renegotiating and changing that deal, why would you want to lean on that as a talking point? To be like, oh, well, the Liberals stuck by Canada's agreements and trade deals with America. Yeah, of course they did. That's what Canada does. Canada's always done that. We stick by our fucking deals, unlike the Americans. So saying that our relationship is over and that all of these deals are going to have to be renegotiated, you really think they're going to look the same? So this doesn't make any sense. This is a very foolish thing for Poilievre to say.
That puts us at the tender mercies of Donald Trump and the Americans. I should point out...
Actually, it gives us a massive fucking power move because we can just stop selling to them. And even Doug Ford, who is a conservative, he's the conservative premier of Ontario, made that threat. And adding surcharges, a 25% surcharge to electricity. So Poilievre has just completely got this backwards, at best, which means he's either lying or he's incompetent.
We are selling natural gas for $4 per British thermal unit to the Americans. It goes for $15 in Europe. So we're selling something for $4.
You do realize it would be more expensive for us to send that to Europe, right? So, the amount that you would spend in shipping costs is made up for by selling it to America. Or both. Yeah, Landon, or Poilievre is both incompetent and lying. It could very well be both. And yeah, there's lots of alternates to oil and gas. Lots of them. And we have access to those things. And it's not even hard. It's just something that takes time to change over to. Which is why you don't see people just, carte blanche canceling any oil projects. That's why the pipeline behind behind Poilievre is there. The Liberals put that pipeline in. The Liberals paid for that. That's a Liberal pipeline. Again, it's not like oil and gas should be totally gone in totality. It's about managing the resource in a sustainable way that thinks ahead about how we're going to use it and how we can get the most out of it to benefit us financially, which is something Carney already said.
That we could be getting...
Jason says the one day that the surcharge on electricity were in effect made $260,000.
$15 for. But for the fact that we don't have any export terminals that can move the gas overseas. All of them blocked by the Liberals. Only one is nearing completion, and that is LNG Canada here in this region, over in Kitimat. And that...
Which is what the Liberals put in to deal with the problem you're describing and do the thing that you want. So again, what's the problem?
Was a project approved by the previous Conservative government. And only...
Oh yeah, like I said, Seabass, listen for a second. I'll get the jangly keys. Listen for a second. Nobody is saying get rid of oil and gas in its entirety. Nobody is saying that here. What we're talking about is sustainability. I believe in you. Hear me out. Sustainability. Managing the resource to ensure profitability. All right? Here, one more time. Sustaining the resource and managing the resource to ensure profitability. if you rip up all of the oil out of the ground by just willy-nilly putting pipelines everywhere into a resource that nations are moving away from, you are not going to get a return on that investment in any meaningful way. You will lose money. Also, is not a lie he told there. It was not put by the liberals. Was it not put by the liberals? Yes, yeah. He's just lying. he's just lying. This isn't about removing oil. It's about being sustainable. Again, all right, and there's your problem right there. That's not where. Where did Carney say this? By the way, I would like to point out the liberals are center left. They're not left-wing extremists. And again, we're back to they want oil gone. Yes, they do not want oil used for energy. They do not want oil used for the majority of our stuff. Do you know what nuance is? Saying remove oil is talking about remove oil as the major producer and of emissions. And remove oil as the main thing that we are relying on for energy. It doesn't mean remove oil forever. The way you remove oil forever is by doing what he's saying and pulling all of it up and burning it all. That would remove oil. Burning through it. Carney is not advocating for it to be gone within the next 15 years. What they want is a transition. Yeah. These plans that we're talking about 75 years. We're talking about a 50 to 75 year plan of switching things over in a sustainable way for maximum profit for Canadians, as well as sustainability and future investment. It's really not that complicated. If you have an apple, is it more beneficial for you? You have some food, right? You have a bushel of apples, right? And all you're given is this bushel of apples. Is it sustainable for you to consume all of those apples all at once and then starve to death 2 days later? Or is it sustainable to eat an apple now, take the seeds, plant them, and then eat an apple, plant the seeds over an amount of time so that way by the time you run out of apples, you have an apple tree? These aren't complicated concepts, but you need to actually engage your brain, and you need to get out of this thinking that, but the liberals said it, but the left said it. It doesn't matter who said it. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter if you like Carney or if you like Poilievre. It doesn't matter if you like the color red or you like the color blue. Poilievre's plan is destructive, doesn't work, and will fall through based on facts. This is objective. This isn't like based on how I feel about it or my interpretation. This is based on objective reality. It is an objective reality that nations, full nations, countries, are moving away from fucking oil. So even if you did this plan, you're going to go bankrupt because you're investing a shitload of money and you're not going to get anything out of it. You're not going to make your money back. Period. End of sentence. It would be devastating to Canada's economy. This also makes the assumption, the Conservatives are also making the assumption that there will be no advancements in technology and green technologies within the next 50 to 75 years. So of course there's going to be investments. Of course there's going to be advances in those fields. We literally just covered one. This is an advancement in that field. Is this going to solve climate change? No. Is it one of the things that will help? Absolutely. So it's a collective effort around the world. Where do you think, divesting $50 billion from fossil fuel investments within the next 3 years and reinvesting it in clean energy sources. Do you really think that changing this article is from 2014? This article is more than 10 years old. Do you really think that $50 billion over the course of 3 to 5 years from 10 years ago is going to bring in no new innovation and no advances from companies? These are companies and nations that are choosing what clean energy sources they're investing in. These are people who have money, who make money. If you trust people who have money and make money to want to make more money, then they're not going to invest in random fucking shit. This money is going somewhere. $50 billion in 10 years? You really think that they're not gonna produce anything or any return on that investment? Of course they are. So, like, it's foolish, it's stupid to suggest that 75 years from now, with all of these advancements that we've already made in the last 10 years, there have been advancements. This is an advancement made in the last 10 years. This is one example. So to make the suggestion that we should invest more in oil when nobody is moving in the direction of oil because you don't think that there's any other sustainable options is just, you're living in a fantasy land. That's absurd. You're living in an alternate reality. It's not about sustainability, it's about money. Money is about sustainability. What are you talking about? I can use the same argument. The Liberals had 10 years, they built 0 nuclear power plants. 0. Alright, let's see if that's true. Nuclear power plants built in Canada 2016, maybe 2015. I'll call it 2016 to 2025. Let's see if this is true. All right, let's see if that's true. You're not gonna like this. You're really not gonna like this. Are you ready? Seabass, are you ready? Listen, I just want to make sure you're ready. I just want to make sure that you're ready. Also, look at Canada's carbon emissions versus India and Asia. We won't make any impact. That's not an argument. That's not a point. And again, you can't look at what they're doing right now. You have to look at their plans for the next 25 years. Yeah, yes, yeah, I'm gonna look. Yeah, I got you. Seabass, are you ready? Your claim was, and I quote, the Liberals had 10 years, they built 0 nuclear power plants. 0. Your number is 0. None. Are you sure? Is that your final answer? World Nuclear Association. About 15% of Canada's electricity comes from nuclear power plants within 17 reactors, mostly in Ontario, providing 2.7 GWE power capacity. Canada has plans to build both new large-scale nuclear capacity and small modular reactors. For many years, Canada has been a leader in nuclear research and technology, exporting reactor systems developed in Canada, as well as high proportion of the world's supply of radioisotopes used in medical diagnosis and cancer therapy. So now you can't even look at just the nuclear plants that Canada built in Canada. You have to look at the nuclear plants that Canada provides the shit for. First grid connections, reactors in Canada. Bruce 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Darlington 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pickering 5, 6, 7, 8. And Port. Are you ready for the next bit? 3 provinces house 22 nuclear power reactors now. That sounds like an increase from the 17 we just looked like. Like I said, follow me here. This one was saying 17. Our government website has now been updated. 22 nuclear reactors. No. 5 plants. 22. That's not plans. That is ones that have been built. Why would someone vote for the Liberals after 10 years of the lost liberal decade, as opposed to voting for Pierre Poilievre? Probably because Pierre Poilievre's plans would drive our economy into the ground, as we've been talking about this whole time. Seabass hasn't been able to figure it out yet. Are you proud of your ignorance? Are you happy to be a stubborn idiot? There are 31 CAN-U reactors in use around the world, and 18 CAN-U derivatives in India developed from the CAN-U design. What? What? Really? No, you don't say. Yeah, they expect the NPP to be built within 10 years. They think construction counts as the ideas of a plan. Trudeau was attacked by the Green Party for funding thorium power plants and approving new nuclear plants. Yep. Should we be more specific? How many nuke plants did Trudeau approve? According to the AI response, as of the latest update, Prime Minister Trudeau has not specifically approved a set number of new nuclear plants. However, his government has taken steps to expedite the approval process for new nuclear plant projects, as shown support by expanding nuclear energy production in Canada. That includes contributing up to $50 million to Bruce Power to conduct consultation and studies to add new nuclear reactors in Tiverton, Ontario. Additionally, Trudeau has emphasized the importance of nuclear energy in Canada's transition to cleaner energy sources and has provided tax credits for the construction of emission-free electricity systems, including nuclear power. Are you embarrassed yet? Are you embarrassed yet? The word you're looking for, the Seabass, is there were none completed within the last 10 years. That's the word you're looking for. That's what you're trying to say. That would be accurate. What you're doing is you're misrepresenting to try to make a point to say something that is not true. Assume that they start on day one of the Liberal Party taking leadership. Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. How long do you think it takes to build a nuclear reactor? Should we Google that too? I mean, we have Landon in the chat. Landon, how long does it take to build a nuclear reactor? Because according to my quick search, the average time is 6 to 8 years. Which means, yeah, if the Liberals only had 10 years, how many did you fucking expect? Are you embarrassed now? Because you should feel embarrassed. It's okay to feel a little bit embarrassed when you get something so aggressively wrong that it just is straight up lying. But you don't have to double down and embarrass yourself further. You can actually just realize that there's more to the propaganda you were told, and there's more nuance to this shit than you fucking understood or you realized. I like that Anatomy Conspiracy thinks that I've got Dunning-Kruger when I've literally got a mathematician and physicist in the chat, as well as one very educated feline in the chat. It's not me. These are the things that are, if you go and look it up and you research it and have any idea, I'm really sorry that the facts make you feel stupid. Anatomy. I'm really sorry about that. But you're welcome to provide an argument instead of an ad hom if you would like, instead of a fallacy. You're welcome to provide a citation if you would like. Look up plant Vogtle. Most 2 recent plants built in the US took forever. All right, let's see how long they took in America. Yeah, see? No, see, they're not embarrassed. They're proud of their ignorance and their stupidity. They're proud of being aggressively, confidently incorrect. Let's see, according to the Wikipedia, these ones took a 4-unit nuclear plant located in Burke County near Waynesboro, Georgia, in the southwest United States, with the capacity of blah, 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 blah. As of 2013, when the construction began. This construction began in 2013. When did they when were they completed? 1 natural draft tower, 2 towers in 2009, the registry is January 2000. Renewed licenses for both for an additional 20 years. Construction for the first 2 units, blah, 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 $660 million. Began preliminary construction in 2009 and were completed in 2023. Guys, the Liberals didn't build nuclear plants in 20 years. Guys, oh no. Oh, god damn it. Oh no. Guys, what do we do? Yes, you do feel superior. And that's the problem. That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem, is this false sense of superiority built on ignorance and propaganda and living and choosing to live in a fantasy land instead of dealing with reality. Read the box. Which box? This box? Units 1976, Unit 3, 2013, Unit 4, 2013, commission date. Yes, commission date. Unit 1, 1987. Is there construction began 1976, commission date 1987. So that was 10 years plus to build that one for units 1 and units 2, 1989. Unit 3 was 2013 and was completed in 2023, which was 10 years, and then Unit 4 was 2013 and finished in 2024. So all of these took 10 years. So it almost looks like 10 years is the average. 11 and 13 years for Unit 1 and 2. Yeah. So why are you surprised? Because you're lying. What you want to say, what the accurate thing to say, what the true thing to say would be that a nuclear plant was not completed during the last 10 years of the Liberal Party's reign. I like how this is you believe what is being told because you can't see facts on a screen. You can't look at numbers. You can't look at graphs and look at what people have actually done and what statistics and graphs are actually there. You can't look at this. No. This is just what people are being told, guys. Everything is a conspiracy. 22 nuclear reactors. It's all a conspiracy, guys. Everything you know, everything they know is correct and right because the person that told them is correct and right. But looking at the facts of the matter, looking at the numbers, no. That's just you being told things. All right, let's let Pierre keep talking.
Could have happened with an industrial carbon tax exemption and by approval under the previous pre-C69 rules. Today, with the industrial carbon tax, the liberal industrial carbon tax, the liberal energy cap, and the
No, Landon, come on. You know that somebody is winning an argument when they try using sexist derogatory names to try to be condescending. That's how you know somebody's how they're winning. They're definitely winning.
liberal law C69, that project never would have happened. The Conservative Party is going to...
Except that it did. The construction happened. It happened. It's right behind him. The Liberals approved it. This is like, again, we're back to laughably lying.
Verse the Liberal agenda of blocking and keeping in the ground our resources. Today I'm rolling out the next phase.
It is not a term of endearment. It is a sexist term that people use to condescend to women when they are losing an argument. The only time it's used as a term of endearment is when you are familiar with the person. So when you say it to a stranger because you're being pissy and shitting your pants because the facts don't agree with whatever propaganda you agree with, then it's condescension. And it's a sign that you're a fucking loser.
Of our Canadian economic plan. I call it one and done. This rule will cut through red tape and get projects done quickly. Build fast, bringing jobs and paychecks home. This is what one and done means. First, we will establish a one-stop shop. One desk called the Rapid Resource Project Office will handle all regulatory approvals across all levels of government so businesses don't have to waste time navigating through...
That's projection, Seabass.
Dozens of different agencies at 3 different levels of government. We will do this in partnership with provinces, First Nations, and municipalities, getting them to sign on to merging together.
One of my things that I'm enjoying here is these people, the Conservatives are so mad that they don't want to let me actually watch Poilievre speak. Is it because you know Poilievre is going to say something embarrassing, he's going to lie?
Their various processes. We will get rid of the double process right now where you have to do the exact same environmental review 3 different times for 3 different levels of government. We'll merge them together, one and done. Next, we will end duplication so there is...
So here's the thing. Different departments covering different things. If you can get one evaluation and then that gets submitted to 3 departments, that's not duplication. That's just 3 different types of reviews made with one overall, right? So it's not what he's presenting it is, right? First off. Second off, when you're doing quality assurance, like when you're doing audits, when you're doing these checks to ensure that things like this are reaching standards, you build redundancies in on purpose because one thing is not always going to catch every single thing, right? So you check something more than one time to ensure quality, to ensure it is correct. So whether or not something is actually redundant and whether or not something is actually supposed to be a double audit on purpose are 2 very, very different things. And I have yet to hear the Conservatives explain how they're going to differentiate between something that is actually redundant and duplicative versus something that is duplicative with intention to ensure to double check. There hasn't been any sort of presentation as to what that's supposed to look like.
There's only one application and review, ensuring efficiency without sacrificing standards.
Seabass, I very clearly said 0 plants in 10 years. Nope. You said they haven't built. What you mean is completed. They've been building and have approved of. That is the process of building. So the problem is that you're distilling something down to the point of it being wrong. It's that straightforward. It's not complicated. And yeah, how dare I pull up facts and numbers and statistics? Wacky, I know. How unfortunate. How unfortunate for you. Jack for 5 says, my day is complete. Only a fool would call Landon a fool, but then I guess they didn't know who they were talking to. Yeah.
Standards. It's not about reducing our environmental or public safety protections. It's about merging them into one simplified step instead of overlapping processes. We did this during the Great...
Even in his description, that he did not actually describe overlaying processes.
Great global recession of 08, 09, Stephen Harper said we want one-page application for municipal infrastructure, one environmental review. And guess what? We completed 23,500 projects from concept to completion in under 2 years, and the Environment Commissioner could not find a single problem with any of them affecting our ecology or our nature. So
I'm gonna just play that real quick. We're gonna let that roll up there. Let's go ahead with I do have one question. I see Anatomy being very upset. Is bureaucracy bad because it is bureaucracy, just out of curiosity? Like what? Again, I am also assuming that Anatomy hasn't watched or read through the conservative project, like their intentions. Have you read that? Because if you actually read that, the conservatives are proposing more bureaucracy, just bigger government with more government oversight. So I would recommend actually reading the policy. But is bureaucracy bad? Yes or no? Let me just pull up... I really don't think bringing up Harper is a really good idea for Pierre Poilievre. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news here. What's the wrong one? Hold on, real quick. What the fuck? Really? Really? Are you gonna make me, like, fucking subscribe or some shit? Remember when Harper ruined Canada's environmental laws? Here's how the Liberals want to revamp them. How about this one? Canadian scientists explain exactly how their government silenced science. 2017. We're off limits during... It wasn't just climate research. Rock snot, sharks, and polar bears were all off limits during the Harper administration. No? That's not good enough for you? No? How about this one? Why Harper conservatives were no friend to the environment. 2016. God, you guys fucking suck at this. Good God. I'm not gonna go over the whole thing. This is clearly, like, easy to find, well-known pieces of information. You're more than welcome to fucking check it out yourself. Let's keep going.
It can be done fast and safe. 3, I will guarantee decisions on major projects within a maximum of 1 year, but the target will be 6 months or sooner. No more delays, no more uncertainty, no more caps on Canadian growth and ambition. Ça suffit.
There's no caps on Canadian growth and ambition. That's a lie. And it's vague.
Les projets, le gouvernement va comme prise, have forgotten you. Mark Carney and his team of Liberals have forgotten you, the people who want to work and create opportunities. They have anti-development laws like C-69.
C-69 is not an anti-development law. That is a lie.
The industrial carbon tax and the energy cap that will make sure no projects ever go ahead. That is why we cannot trust the Liberals to a 4th term in power. They have the same Liberal MPs same Liberal advisor.
Again, he's repeating himself, but I will repeat again here. It would have been incredibly unpragmatic, messy, and, like, just a bunch of additional work if Carney were to pick a whole new slew of cabinet members for 3 months before an election to then run an election. We'll see who he picks. If he gets the prime minister seat, maybe he won't. I don't know. Doesn't seem like that's going to be the case, but who knows? Polls don't vote, so we'll find out. But alas, regardless. And of course, it is devolved. Anatomy, you will have noticed, has not actually made a single argument, has not provided a single citation, is supporting groups and people who deny the schools, the indigenous genocides, who support the racism of John A. Macdonald, people who are in support of and have been bankrupting municipalities, people who have been taking snacks and food away from cancer children, and weird sexist things like biological clocks. So yeah, I'm not really too concerned if somebody who supports those things thinks that I'm sick. You know what, I'm okay with that.
Same failed Liberal policy.
Which, again, I would like to point out, the Conservative that was in here came in and said, why are you upset that kids with cancer aren't getting snacks? My kid got snacks. You guys are morally absurd and bankrupt. You don't know how to read, you don't know how to have a conversation, and you are completely incapable of actually producing an argument. Because you don't know any of the facts. It's just rhetoric and talking points. All of which so far in this stream have been live debunked.
Policies, same broken promises. Mark Carney is not real change. He is doubling down on the same lost Liberal decade from which we now need to escape with real change.
Drink for a lost Liberal decade. I have a question. Poilievre has been in politics for, what, 20 years? Right? 20 years? 21 now, give or take? Right? How is somebody who has been in politics for 20 years, how would voting for him be a change to politics? I would also, like, in what world? Why would anybody want to go back to doing what Harper was doing? I would like to remind everybody that when Harper left office, not only had he driven up the debt, was bad for the environment, but also was so despised and disliked for his policies that the Conservatives didn't even get the opposition party. So why would you think that anybody would want to go back to that? Because the only thing I can think of is the shit I listed before. Immoral, sexist, racist horseshit. Authoritarian nonsense. Didn't Poilievre say he hasn't changed his views since high school? Yes, he did. He did, in fact, say that in an interview with Jordan fucking Peterson, while praising Jordan Peterson for his freedom of speech shit, etc., which was also a lie. Jordan Peterson built his fucking brand off of lying about what Bill C-16 was and did, what it was an anti-harassment bill. All it did was add LGBTQ people and trans people to the protected don't be fucking racist groups. Which, you know, are harassment laws, not speech dictation.
The most powerful thing we can do to
and also Jordan Peterson is really gross about women too.
Take our dependence on the Americans and bring jobs and dollars home would be to
Good point, Jason. Changes need to be made so that someone who hasn't been vetted and cleared should not be able to run for MP. I absolutely agree with that. Can any conservative who's been watching and who is in the chat right now, who's been trying to talk shit, explain to me why they are okay with this motherfucker not having his security clearance? Can you explain to me why you're okay with that? You'll notice that I asked reasonable questions of these people and they haven't been able to answer a single fucking one.
rapidly expand our energy production and exports. But Mark Carney has said he wants to keep the industrial carbon tax, keep C-69, the no development law, keep the resource...
It's not a no development law. That's a lie.
...and energy cap. And get this, just a couple of days ago, after the Liberals saw my commitment to get LNG Canada Phase 2 built, they rushed out Minister Wilkinson to tell you that, surprise, now they've changed their position on that too. Except it comes with a big fast asterisk. The minister says, and I quote, "We'd like to see a positive decision, but the project would have to fit within the government's climate architecture."
Yes. That's not a change of position, motherfucker. You're saying they're saying the exact same thing they've been saying. They approve pipelines. They approve the pipeline behind you, but it has to fit within the realm of what the fuck we're doing for climate change. Minority government, Harper, 2016, 2008 to 2011, conservative, yeah.
Climate architecture.
Yeah, which means that Harper wasn't even as popular, yeah.
Sure. That is code for saying the project will never happen. Furthermore, the company...
No, it's saying that the project needs to meet the standards and requirements. Would you say the same thing about your food? Would you be like, well, the chicken is like 90% cooked. It's like, you know, it's fine. Like, what? No. Well, you wouldn't do that. So the answer is no. It has to be, the project needs to be within the standards. If it's not within the standards, it's not going to get approved. Duh.
Who is investing in this project says they cannot do it with the energy cap, C-69, or the industrial carbon tax. So in other words, it would be impossible to complete LNG Canada if the Liberals stay in power, no matter what deathbed conversion.
Except for the one that they made standing. You hear how this is version, this is 2? This is Project 2? It's because the Liberals approved Project 1. So clearly, there is no never on the table. It is, you need to be within our realm of what we're trying to do here. And that's sustainability in the environment. So if Project 2 can get itself within those standards of practice, they can go ahead and approve the project.
Or last-minute promises they now try to make. The Liberals are going to continue with the same failed approach. A resume is not a plan, nor is...
Again, see, they gave up. Because they don't have a point, they don't have an argument, and they know they're wrong. So when they've been shown wrong multiple times, they default to, yeah, whatever, Canada's just cooked. How? You guys can't even see it. Sure, then show it to us. 10 more years of sustainable spending. As opposed to... Do you know what the word sustainable means? And the only green you'll be thinking about is the weeds from the garden of your plates? Oh, the weeds from the garden on your plates? Do you know what drought does? You don't get weeds in a drought, dumbass. Again, CBAS has not provided a single reason why we should vote for the fucking Conservative Party. All they're telling us is, Liberals bad. Tell me why I should vote for the Conservatives. What policies are they putting forward will be good for Canada? Good for the working class? Tell me. Why? Again, you've been here, I've been live for over 2 hours, and however long you've been here, you haven't provided a single reason why conservatives are good. All you've argued is that liberals bad, and even that was filled with random bullshit that we've already disproved.
Is continuing with the same policies Mr. Carney advised Trudeau to take over the last 5 years. The last Conservative government...
That's a lie.
Of which I was a part, had an economic action plan to grow the economy and make it less reliant on America. That's why...
Which is not what happened during Harper's tenure, which is the government he's talking about, so that's also a lie.
Stephen Harper approved LNG Canada before the Liberals took office. And that's why I'm announcing today that I'm approving Phase 2 of LNG Canada. It will go ahead if I am elected, and we will make sure that it will be jobs for local people.
Guys, he's gonna use the power he doesn't have to preemptively approve something for a position he's not in. For something he doesn't understand, because this is related to foreign development. Because it's about shipping to foreign places, and he doesn't have a security clearance.
People, including the great Haisla workers with whom our friend Ellis Ross has been working. We will also tap into the rich mining potential of northern BC to start economic boom for the region in gold, silver, copper, critical minerals, and increased refining and
So, alright, Sideman, again, you're not answering the question. There's more options than just the Conservative Party, right? People could vote Green, people could vote NDP, they could vote Liberal, they could vote the Bloc, depending on where you are. You could vote a different party entirely. Why, if I don't want to vote for Liberals, why should I vote for the Conservatives? You're not answering the question. You don't have a reason. You have no reason to vote for this outside of I don't like the Liberals and I think this guy has the best chance of kicking the Liberals out of power. That's not good enough. Why should anyone vote for the Conservative Party independently? Take the Liberals out of the equation. Take Justin Trudeau out of the equation. Why should someone vote for the fucking Conservative Party? I can't believe that I've been live for 2 hours and I've been covering this for a week plus at this point, and not a single conservative have brought forward a single reason why anybody should vote for the Conservative Party. Not one! The only thing is liberals are bad, and half of that is fucking lies. It's just things that are not true, that I've been actively live debunking. Why? How? Poilievre is leadership material without his security clearance? Fucking what? They have no answers. They have no answers. Again, we're back. Again, Seabass can't answer. Simon can't answer. Anatomy didn't answer. Bailey didn't answer. That other account that was like Dave or something, Dave F, didn't answer. Not a single fucking answer. Not one.
Exporting capacity. We will learn from the success of LNG Canada on how we can get things built with First Nations and ensure that they enjoy prosperity. I will even allow the companies who build this project to pay a share of their federal corporate taxes directly to the First Nations.
Yes, I would prefer that my air doesn't poison me and kill everybody
in the area, creating own source revenue that will build schools, clean drinking water systems, hospitals, and other wonderful opportunities for the young people. This is
how are you going to pay for it? He wants to build these opportunities. He wants to do things with hospitals, even though he wants to make Medicare private. How are you going to pay for it? You're cutting taxes. How are you going to pay for it?
Top of other projects that we will improve right across the country. In today's press release, you'll see that I've listed 10 projects that are trapped in the Liberal system waiting for an approval. I will rapidly approve them all, and I will invite many more to come to
Are you going to review them first? Or you're just gonna willy-nilly fucking just hard stamp approve them? Because that's incredibly foolish.
For that, ça inclut GNL Québec. On a besoin de projects. Unlike keeping our resources in the choice is clear, my friends. Do we want a fourth Liberal term of keeping our resources in the ground? And
honestly, at this rate, I would rather a next 20-year Liberal term, based on what this fucking guy's saying.
Keeping Canada under America's thumb. Or do we want a new...
That is literally not what the Liberals are doing at all. Carney has been incredibly sturdy and consistent in dealing with Trump. So, that's just not true.
Conservative government that will approve projects, unlock resources, unleash our economy, so that we can be strong, self-reliant, sovereign, and stand on our own 2 feet.
Unleash our economy? What the fuck does that mean? You know what this is? This is a Trump talking point. This is what Trump was saying. And you want to know how he unleashed it and unleashed the forests? By selling out the national parks, cutting their funding and selling them out to corporations, which guess what? Has not done anything to provide fucking money to the people who live in those areas. And the people who are upset by it. This is the same fucking talking point.
against the Americans. Le choix qui s'offre aux Canadiens est simple. Est-ce qu'on veut un employé? That is the choice. It's time to put Canada first for a change. That means partnering with First Nations, approving projects, expanding ports, building pipelines, digging mines, axing
He's repeated himself a lot.
taxes, and getting it done for a change. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now go to questions. Please say your...
All right, so we're on questions. Let's go to Carney's questions first. It took him 10 more minutes to say less shit than Carney did. All right, go.
And then a few questions from local. 15 minutes pour la délégation, ensuite les médias locaux. Michel?
Bonjour, Monsieur Carney.
Bonjour,
Michel
monsieur.
Savard pour la presse canadienne. Quel est l'élément principal de votre message aux électeurs qui ont été nombreux à voter pour le NPD lors des dernières élections fédérales en Colombie-Britannique? Et leur faites-vous une promesse progressiste de ne pas couper dans les programmes sociaux?
Merci pour votre question. Premièrement, en ce qui concerne la dernière partie de votre question, je l'ai fait. Je fais cette promesse. On ne coupe jamais les programmes sociaux, y compris l'assurance médicale et puis les soins dentaires et tout cela. Il y en a plusieurs, mais on ne coupe.
Nope, side, nope, nope. Why should I vote for the fucking Conservatives? You're telling me why I shouldn't vote for the Liberals. You're not telling me why I should vote for the Conservatives. This is your third attempt? I'll give you one more.
Pas mon gouvernement, premièrement. Deuxièmement, en ce qui concerne cette élection, il faut le dire, le grand enjeu, c'est la lutte contre les menaces américaines. Qui va représenter le Canada à la table?
And even on top of that, bringing up Trudeau is, again, also irrelevant, by the way. We're talking about Mark Carney's Liberal Party.
The question, the second part of the question was about a commitment not to cut social programs. I gave an absolute commitment not to cut social programs. I gave a couple of examples. I won't take the whole time. I listed dental.
That's still the only reason why I shouldn't. That you're still telling me why not liberal, not why conservative. If you do not start at why conservative, you're dude. Listen. Conservatives don't know how to have a conversation. This is the evidence of it. They do not know how to talk. All they know is buzzwords, talking points, rhetoric that they're just repeating, that they've been told before, and most of it is bullshit. And most of it is built off of bullshit, like we've been disproving. You do not know how to talk to somebody who does not buy in to your pre-existing rhetoric. I'm asking you to tell me independently why I should vote for the Conservatives. Independently of the Liberals. Not wanting the Liberals in power is not convincing to somebody who is not already convinced of that idea. I'm coming to you from a neutral position and saying, I don't think bad of the Liberals, I don't think bad of the Conservatives. Why independently should I vote for the Conservatives? Saying because we don't want the Liberals in power isn't why I should vote for the Conservatives. That's only why I should not vote for the Liberals. And most of that shit, again, has been debunked live here for the ones that have been brought up. So, why should I vote for the Conservatives? What policies, what argument do you have? And the answer is you don't know how to talk to people. You don't know how to have a conversation. You are not capable. You don't understand numbers. You don't know what facts are. You don't know how to communicate with people. You have barely an understanding of economics, let alone any fucking understanding of climate change and what it means. Don't forget, did Trudeau plant the trees? Like, no. You're absurd. You're a joke. You're not a serious person. You're not a serious interlocutor. You don't know how, come on, grow up.
Dental care, pharma care, but I could list many more. I won't take the whole time. I listed dental care, pharma care, but I could list many more. We will not cut those. They are at the core of what we do. And I will say one other thing.
Hooray! Medical care being a right, including dental care and pharmaceutical care. Yippee!
I didn't say in French, which is one of the reasons why...
No, they don't know how to have an honest conversation at all. They don't know how to have a conversation. Having a conversation fucking includes having two people talking to each other for a level of understanding. These people want to talk at you, shout fallacies at you, like, what are your credentials in economics? Have you ever been in a debate, though? These are fallacies. These are fallacies and buzzwords. These are not arguments. These are not points. You don't have an argument. That's why you have to lean on and have to jump to misogyny, why you have to lean on sexism, why you have to lean on racism, why you have to lean on being absolutely horrible to fucking children. What do you know about economics? Credential, like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You're not able to just have a conversation. You are so stuck. You are so stuck. Unbelievably stuck. Come on. Come on. I'll give you a carrot. Do you want a carrot? Do you want a candy? You want me to find you some candy? Will that make you feel better? Snowflakes. Absolute. This chat has been nothing but conservatives having absolute meltdowns because they can't handle a fact. They can't handle the fact that the Conservative Party is bankrupting Alberta municipalities. They can't handle the fact that the Alberta Party has been taking away food from kids riddled with cancer. They can't handle the fact that Pierre Poilievre's plan for industry and the pipeline would do our economy a ton of damage because it is a fact that the fucking world is moving away from fossil fuels. Yeah, and good point. A claim is not an establishment. Correct. Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Are you new here? I don't think I've seen your name before. That is nail on head. A claim is not an establishment. Yes, thank you. Absolutely. All this is piss poor attempts at using random bullshit that they've been told to say that things don't work and won't work and can't work. Canada is cooked. Canada's fine. Canada's fine. We're doing great. I don't even think Poilievre winning the election would destroy Canada. I think it would be bad for us, based on his policies, based on the conservative document that I spent a week, 2 weeks reading through, based on the things that he said. I think he would be bad for us overall because of mainly his short-term planning and lack of planning. But I'm still listening, and that's part of the problem. I'm listening to what the conservatives are saying more than the conservatives are.
We want to build a strong economy. We need a strong economy il faut avoir une économie forte afin.
Yeah. Remember when Poilievre was saying that the liberals are intentionally ruining Canada's economy? Is that what he's saying?
Des programmes sociaux. And we know how to build that strong economy. Last bit of the translation. Unfortunately, but the reality is that the key issue in this election is who can stand up to the threats from America, to our sovereignty, to our nature, to our livelihoods, to our future. Who do you want at that negotiating table? Monsieur.
Les marchés.
Oh, yeah. The Poilievre is very much a miniature Trump. He is running the same fucking rhetoric, you'll notice.
Chute, vous en avez parlé en ouverture de votre discours, mais seulement en anglais. Que dites-vous donc aux Canadiens qui sont inquiets?
Premièrement, oui, la situation est difficile, il faut le dire. Premièrement, il faut reconnaître. Deuxièmement, nous avons une stratégie de se battre contre les Américains afin de changer les politiques tarifaires des Américains, premièrement. Et
can I point out, by the way, if you want to talk about leadership and about somebody who makes a good leader and not, because that was something that was brought up, please tell me about Poilievre's ability to answer questions and his accountability to the Canadian people via taking questions from the press. And what about Poilievre's responsibility to the Canadians that were terrorized by the truckers? And what about his accountability to the Canadian people by getting his security clearance?
On fait de progrès. On verra dans quelques semaines, mais on fait de progrès. Deuxièmement, en ce qui concerne... et le deuxième élément, c'est de protéger. Protéger nos travailleurs et protéger...
Seabass. Seabass. Try again. I believe in you. I believe in you. I believe in you. You can figure it out. You can read. Come on.
Des gens qui ont déjà pris leur retraite avec des initiatives très spécifiques en ce qui concerne les épargnes des gens.
What? I'm making stuff up. Which things did I make up? Did I make up that Poilievre doesn't have a security clearance? Did I make up that Poilievre was in support of the truckers? I showed that. I showed that yesterday. That's a well-established fact. Like, he showed up with, there's pictures of him, and he's done interviews where he's talked about this. This is not new information. So which part did I make up?
Qui sont pris leur retraite. Et finalement, et ça c'est fondamental, et de bâtir notre économie. Il faut bâtir l'économie.
Well, it's not even that we shouldn't try. Seabass is not only saying that we shouldn't try, they're saying that everything that happens has to happen instantaneously, and that there is no like rollover time, and that these plans and things like this happen over the course of 50 to 60 to 75 years.
À partir de maintenant. Okay.
Yeah, no, I literally just answered that before it came in, so I'm not gonna say it again.
Prochaine question.
Monsieur?
Bonjour, Christian Noël de Radio-Canada. En Colombie...
Seabass, what are the Paris Accords? Tell me what the Paris Accords are.
En Colombie-Britannique, aujourd'hui, vous faites le choix de faire une annonce sur l'environnement, sur la protection de la nature.
Oui.
À l'aube de la campagne électorale avec les premiers ministres, vous avez promis de bâtir des corridors énergétiques, de réduire les évaluations environnementales de 2 à 1. En quoi est-ce que c'est pas contradictoire? Et qu'avez-vous à dire aux électeurs, notamment des néo-démocrates, qui s'en inquiètent?
Premièrement, il faut faire plusieurs choses en même temps comme un gouvernement. OK? À ce moment-là, par exemple, au Québec, les gens au Québec, les entreprises au Québec utilisent 7 jours, ce jour-ci, 350 000 barils de pétrole, jour par jour. Et 70% de ce pétrole viennent des États-Unis. Nous avons la chance de repousser, de déplacer ce pétrole. Si, mais seulement si, on fait des assessments, d'impact assessments, pardon, et puis, mais s'ils ont tout d'accord, c'est-à-dire le Québec, les peuples autochtones et toutes les autres provinces et le fédéral. Et cette initiative d'avoir un projet, une revue, c'est parce que
this stuff that Seidman and Seabass are talking about when it comes to oil and stuff is the equivalent of saying that in the America didn't go to the moon and wasn't going to the moon in 1968 and 1967. They landed on the moon in 1969, but that doesn't mean America wasn't going to the moon or there wasn't a space race up until the point of landing. That's like saying the space race only existed when America landed on the moon. That's the fucking equivalent. So yeah, what are the Paris Accords?
Nous sommes allés...
No, that's just not true, Seidman. That's just not true. We have the lowest inflation of the G7. We had it last summer.
Avec le processus environnemental du gouvernement du Québec. OK.
En anglais, s'il vous plaît.
In English, we have to be able to do in government more than one thing at one time. We are moving to protect the environment. Announcement today.
Oh, so you mean that the plan of just building pipelines isn't a plan of what the government should and can do? Wow, go figure.
The focus of the question is on developments of conventional energy. I use the
inflation is not economic growth. Can you tell Simon what is inflation? Define inflation. And then I want you to define economic growth. What constitutes to you economic growth?
Example of Quebec, which uses 350,000 on average barrels of oil a day, 70% of which comes from the United States. There is a big advantage to Canada to push that out, use our own oil, use the resources from that for other things, including protecting our environments, our social programs as well. But we will only do that in the case where we have the support of First Nations. We have the support of all the provinces, obviously including Quebec in the example that I gave. And with respect to environmental assessments, yes, we are open to having one project, one review to speed these projects of national interest, but that's because we have confidence in the environmental standards, in this case, of the province of Quebec. Monsieur.
En suivi, en quoi ça devrait rassurer les électeurs qui ne sont pas nécessairement en faveur de ce genre de projet-là? Et aussi, vous parlez d'accélérer l'exploitation des ressources, mais vous voulez continuer de plafonner les émissions. En quoi est-ce que tout ça, c'est compatible?
No,
Here's annual GDP growth to 2023. This is COVID. The economy of Canada is a highly developed mixed economy, the world's 9th largest as of 2024. Nominal of a GDP of approximately $2.117 trillion. Canada is one of the world's largest trading nations and a highly globalized economy. In 2021, trades, goods, and service reached $2.016 trillion, and Canadian exports totaled $637 billion. In 2018, Canada had a trade deficit in goods of $22 billion and a trade deficit in service of $25 billion. And the Toronto Stock Exchange is the 10th largest stock exchange in the world. Seidman, you're wrong. These are our numbers. You notice how they're all green and going upwards? You're wrong. Labor force up, unemployment down. You're wrong. Canada's economic growth has been fantastic. We did incredibly well comparatively during COVID. Do you see what I mean? You notice, I want to point out real quick. You notice how, again, none of the conservatives in the chat right now have provided a single piece of information. They've made claims, and when they're shown their claims are wrong, they refuse to accept them and then shift the goalpost and demand that I pull up and look up something else on their behalf. And then when I pull up that thing on their behalf, they ignore it, disregard it, and just say, haha, not true. I show them a fact, they say I'm making something up. Goalpost shifting. Right, exactly. They're purposefully trying to waste our time. Because why would we want to actually talk about the policies and the positions of what's going on now?
Et ils sont compatibles parce qu'il faut réduire.
Again, I already told you, the comparison to the G7 is we have the lowest inflation rate of the G7.
Les émissions des gaz à effet de serre de scope 1 et scope 2 en ce qui concerne
Ask ChatGPT. Yeah, I'm gonna ask ChatGPT. Sure. Rather than looking at actual statistics and published facts by professionals, I'm gonna ask the robot that is scraping Twitter. Sure. ChatGPT.
les gaz à effet de serre dans
Man, it sure is a good thing that we all knew that you weren't a serious person out the gate.
production et la transmission de pétrole et de gaz. Okay? À ce moment.
Seabass, you still haven't told me what the Paris Accords are, so we're not moving on from that until you answer that question.
Si, c'est presque 30% des émissions de gaz à effet de serre à travers le Canada viennent de le scope 1 et scope 2 des ressources conventionnelles. OK. Alors, il faut avoir des grands projets, par exemple, le Pathways, c'est le mot en anglais, et qui fait le stockage de carbone. Il faut faire plusieurs choses en même temps afin d'avoir une transition énergétique, afin de bâtir un Canada durable et fort. Merci. In terms of... now I have to back up to my answer. In effect, the heart of this is how is it compatible to have both the development of conventional oil and have a transition? And part of the answer...
Conventional oil have a... Guys, ding, jingle, 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 jingle. Conservatives, did you hear him? Have oil and a transitional period.
And a cap on emissions. The answer is, look, we have...
I need to be more rude. Use ChatGPT deserves a... There it is, the stupidest comment I've seen all day. Yeah, that is pretty stupid. I'll give you that much. Ask ChatGPT is very, very dumb. So what you're telling me is Canada had growth. That's what you're telling me. That's not what you claimed. You claimed that Canada didn't have economic growth. Now you're telling me that they had economic growth, you're just mad that it wasn't as much as Germany. That's not the same claim. So thank you for getting the citation to prove that you were wrong.
Have almost 30% of our emissions in this country.
And having low inflation. Yay! See, Alex figured it out. I believed in you.
So-called Scope 1, Scope 2 emissions. In other words, in the production and transportation of oil and gas. This is...
Right. Adjusted for inflation. Have you figured it out yet? The answer is no. The answer is no.
This is an enormous figure. It's an unusually high figure relative to other countries, okay, in the production. We need to get those emissions down. We can get those emissions down with Canadian technology. The example and one of the great opportunities for Alberta, for Canada, ultimately for the world, is to advance carbon capture and storage. The principal opportunity there is in the Pathways project. That's how one reconciles is both producing more, which has the advantage of pushing out foreign supplies, makes Canada richer, pays for
pushing out foreign supplies, makes Canada richer,
social programs, gets good jobs, helps support our environment at the same time we'll use
jobs, environment. Okay, so all of this is about making money.
In these gas. Mr. Aiken, please. Sorry. I know we're short on time. So
I'll be quick too.
No, I'll try and be quick.
David Aiken, Global News. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to come back to the markets. Your investments are in a blind trust. You don't know how they're doing, but the rest of it...
they're going. I'm sure they're going down if they're...
Okay.
Here's a question. If you want to talk about economics, Simon seems really mad about the economic things. If you want to talk about economics, who would you rather in power then? You want to ask me about my credentials and make credentials something that matters when it comes to talking about economics, as somebody who has not provided your own credentials. If you want to talk about that, who is going to be better for the overall, for Canada's economic decision making? Somebody who doesn't know anything about economics and has been unsuccessful in politics for 20 years when it comes to passing bills, when it comes to making things better for Canadians, i.e. like housing stuff, or the economist?
So I wondered, you're a former Bank of Canada governor, former Bank of England governor. What do we make of this? What do businesses make of this? What can governments do, if anything?
Well, it's the key question. First off, I'll say I did speak to the governor of the Bank of Canada today. I spoke to the Minister of Finance. I spoke to a number of counterparts in the last 24 hours around the world, including his, as you know, Prime Minister Starmer. At present, let me say a few things and get to the heart of it. What you worry about in these types of situations, if you are charged with overseeing financial markets, is...
By the way, since you really requested it, I did do this. According to the AI answer for Canada and the G7 economy, Canada's economy is projected to be the fastest growing amongst G7 countries in 2025, with an expected growth rate of 2.4% according to International Monetary Fund. You're welcome, idiot.
Are there problems that are being created by the markets themselves, the banks themselves? Are there weaknesses? We do not see that. We have rock solid financial institutions in this country, so they're not making it worse. Okay? So, but what is happening in the markets is they are reacting to what we have warned about, which is that these tariffs are fundamentally damaging to the American economy and by extension to the global economy. So what needs to be done in a situation like this is, yes, there's a lot of technical things and liquidity and lots of work, that needs to be done to make sure the markets function and the markets don't make it worse. I have confidence in the Governor of the Bank of Canada, Minister of Finance, they're on top of it, and also have confidence in Canadian institutions. So Canadians can be reassured on that. But what you need to do in a crisis, and I have long experience in this, is you need to meet it with overwhelming force. You need to meet it with overwhelming force. And the situation at the heart of this is uncertainty about U.S. policy, or to make it worse, is greater certainty that U.S. policy will be self-harming to the American economy and therefore the global economy if the U.S. doesn't walk back from this tariff policy. We can't control the United States. We can't control President Trump's decision. We can speak, and we do, and influence, inform. We can control what we do here in this country, and that's why we're being clear about, and we've been clear from the start, in terms of the huge payback if we have one Canadian economy, not 13. The huge payback for major projects of national interest. The ability.
Yeah, the 1 to 13 thing is about bringing opening up trade between the provinces.
To
Again, I'm back to, I do not understand what is so bad about Carney in the first place, and I do not understand why I would vote for the Conservatives when they're doing none of these things that clearly, objectively, seem to be things that would be helpful when it comes to strengthening our economy. Does freeing up trade between our provinces strengthen our economy? Yeah, it does that. Regardless of whether you're blue, red, it doesn't matter. The fact is the fact. Your opinion about it is irrelevant. How you feel about it doesn't matter. It's a fact that opening up trade between our provinces to be better will strengthen our economy, period. End of sentence. Objectively. Pierre Poilievre isn't talking about that. The Conservatives aren't talking about that. They're not talking about doing any of these things. So why? Why would I vote for them if they're not proposing something that would strengthen our economy? Or why they're shitting on something that would strengthen our economy?
Catalyze investment in this country of all sorts, and the importance of diversifying our trading relationships around the world. And I will say in the last 48 hours, I've had a series of conversations around exactly, well, in fact, all of those aspects. Sorry, David, I'll hand back. But, so the way we need, and what Canadians, I think the core message to Canadians is something I've said over and again, but I want to really emphasize. We can give ourselves far more than the U.S. can take away. So the U.S. is driving itself into a recession, pressure on the world if the U.S. doesn't change course. But what we can control is where we invest here, how we support our people, and that's what we're doing.
Interesting you mentioned about making sure markets work. You'll recall in the 08-09 fiscal crisis, you as governor took some steps to make sure that our banks were liquid. Prime Minister Harper took similar steps on fiscal policy. We came out of that recession faster, I think, than anybody else,
right?
Because of some of the steps that we're taking. This time around, first of all, do you anticipate Canada and/or North America entering a recession? Has that likelihood increased? And 3, what steps might a government take to, like you did in 08-09, make sure we come out of that recession more rapidly?
Okay, I want you guys to listen really quickly to the types of questions he's being asked and how he is giving detailed answers. Now, that's like the 6th question that he's taken. I'm going to jump back to Poilievre because he's also at his question time. So let's see what kind of questions Poilievre is being asked and how he answers them.
Name and outlet.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chuck Chang with the Canadian Press. Mr. Poilievre, how quickly do you think these fast-tracked programs can go ahead, considering that there's also provincial and municipal jurisdiction? And are you confident that the proper environmental and First Nation Indigenous consultations on these projects have been done in order to facilitate these fast tracks? Thank you.
That's actually a really good question. So he mentioned he wanted to fast track these 10 things. How are you going to ensure that? Which is the same question I asked. And they also added in the provincial issue.
Yes, thank you for your question. I didn't get your name.
Chuck Chang, Canadian Press.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Yes, a very important question. My goal is to bring First Nations, municipalities, and provinces all under the same tent. Let's sit down and put together the checklist of all the things we need to approve, put it in one office that is accountable to all levels of government, and let the company then apply to the project right there.
How is that that's not gonna streamline anything. So now you're not just streamlining things like, oh my god, that's a nightmare. Oh my god, that's a fucking nightmare. That would not work.
I'm convinced we can get these projects approved in as little as 6 months. We should be able to.
And yeah, that also doesn't answer the question. Correct.
That's what they do in other countries. Let me give you an example. In Germany, they built an LNG import terminal from concept to completion in 178 days. That's not the approval process. That was approval and construction. That's how things happen in the rest of the world.
That is called cherry picking.
Canada, we're not even, we're in a parallel universe here where it takes 14, 15 years to go through the bureaucracy.
That's also not true.
In the rest of the world, things are getting done in months, not years. And
that is also not true.
That's what we're going to have to do. We need to move at the speed of business to bring our jobs home and become self-reliant, because after the lost Liberal decade of rising costs and crime and a falling economy...
There's no rising crime. That's not a thing. That's fake.
America's thumb. We can't afford a Liberal fourth term. We need a new Conservative government that will greenlight projects, axe taxes, and bring our jobs home.
That's not what he asked. You'll notice that the question he asked was, how are you going to ensure that these things are approved on the projects that you already said you were going to approve? He didn't answer. He just said, let's get everybody together and hash it out. You do not think that we've done that and that's why the things are in place the way they are, is to ensure that these things are met? It's almost like it's not actually redundancy. It's not actually double dipping.
For a change.
En français.
Merci beaucoup. Une très bonne question. Ailleurs, municipal est perdu beaucoup.
Hi, Mr. Poilievre. I'm sure, as you know, a big question about Phase 2 of LNG Canada is whether it should be forced to run on electricity to reduce pollution. And I take it, based on what you're saying today about your sort of pre-approval, you would not require electrification and it could just go ahead and run on natural gas. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes. And to be
Wow, that's the most clear and concise answer he's ever given. Yes. So you're just going to fuck over the environment. That's what that is. You're going to remove the restrictions and remove the requirements to ensure that whatever is built runs efficiently, effectively, and doesn't damage the surrounding ecology and the ecosystem, as well as have a negative effect on climate change. The answer was yes to that he's gonna do all that. Fucking wow, dude. Holy Jesus Christ. Yes, and...
be clear, Mr. Shaw, the project will not go ahead if it cannot run on natural gas. It won't happen. So when the Liberals say that they're going to ban LNG Canada from using gas to power the plant, what they're saying is the plant will not be allowed to happen.
If they can't do business, then they don't deserve to do business. If they can't follow the rules of Rome, they don't get to be in Rome. If you can't afford to pay your workers a livable wage, you don't deserve to be in business. Burning natural gas equals CO2, methane, and other noxious gases fecking up the environment. Yes.
Let's be very clear. If the Liberals are reelected, this expansion will not occur.
Then LNG should do better.
For 4 reasons. 1, the energy cap that they are imposing makes it impossible. And you can ask the company about that. You don't have to take my word for it. 2, the industrial carbon tax. The only way LNG Canada #1 went ahead is because it had a carbon tax exemption. 3...
So there are ways to get exemptions for the pipelines through the Liberals then, correct? Great. So it's not impossible to do 2, provided it meets its requirements for CO2 emissions and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if it's not able to do that, then it doesn't deserve to go forward. It's really that simple.
C-69, which will mean that it's 10 years of bureaucracy and hearings and back and forth that no company is going to waste millions and billions of dollars on. And 4, Liberals...
Except for the one that you're literally standing in front of. Except for the one that you're literally standing in front of right now.
Want to insist that it run on electricity and not on gas. That makes it impossible to finance. So
except for the one literally behind him.
4 reasons, there is no way the Liberals will ever allow this to happen. If you want energy independence, if you want these monstrous, big, beautiful projects to go ahead, you are...
Calm down there, Trump Jr. My big, beautiful projects.
You're going to need a change in government with a Canada First Conservative Prime Minister.
Yeah, but the only people who should want these things to move forward are the corporations, right? He's talking to the corporations there, not the people. The people aren't going to care if one project goes forward or the other project goes forward as long as gas and electricity and power remain livable and sustain their lifestyles. So if their lifestyles are sustained, they're not going to care one way or the other if the project goes through. Or not. So the only people who care about if the project goes through is the corporation. You shouldn't care about the corporation. You should care about your living situation, right?
C'est. Oui, la réponse est oui. Je vais permettre. Ils ont mis 4 la loi soins de l'éthique pour les choix se prendre nos emplois.
Your next question is from Tom Fletcher from Northern Beat. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Canada is a little late to the party for LNG. We're behind Australia, Qatar, Indonesia, Malaysia, and of course the USA now. Can Canada still compete for more LNG on the West Coast or even on the East Coast?
Thank you, Mark Carney.
That's a good question. Like, if this is already a market that's flooded, is it worth investing in it? Right? Because if the market is already there and the market's already capped, why would we invest in it? And instead, he's saying, thank you, Mark Carney. What? It's actually gripping the sides of the podium, yeah.
Thank you, Justin Trudeau. Those two said there was no business case for LNG over the last decade. And as you correctly point out, all the other countries knew better.
Did they? Does America know better right now for emissions? Did they? Again, I would like to point out, as I showed, Canada has the fastest growing economy in the G7. So, are you sure about that?
And in the state, during the time when the last lost Liberal decade, where Carney and Trudeau
Slogan
were blocking
man,
these projects
da.
here, we saw 8 new plants go up in the States. Qatar doubled its production and signed supply agreements with France.
I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, Poilievre. We don't want to be America. And we don't want to be Qatar. The way we handle our resources and the resources we have access to are different. We don't have access to only oil. We have access to a plethora, and we have the resources, we have the people, we have the expertise, we have the know-how. Why would we not circumvent that market for long-term gains over periods of time, especially in a market that's already overbloated? Like, again, I'm back to the Conservatives don't understand economics. The Conservatives don't understand business. That's not how business works. That's not what you do. That's not how investments function. Russia invaded Ukraine and Europe stopped using Russia gas. Right. There's already sanctions on Russia.
We've seen other countries unleash their natural gas potential. I understand now Alaska is looking at exporting LNG.
That's still America.
So you're right. That is the lost Liberal decade. But no, we're not.
Answer the question.
Right? There's still going to be massive demand for LNG because it is the cheapest, one of the cheapest and cleanest ways to power an electrical grid without coal. And
how long is that going to last? And if it's the cheapest option, is that really what you want to long-term invest in?
so if we move now, if we reject a 4th Liberal term and elect
Again, I would like to point out, he is standing in front of an LG fucking thing. So we already have it.
a new Conservative government that will rapidly approve major projects like LNG Canada Part 2, LNG Quebec, and others, then we can get our gas to the world. We have huge advantages over the Americans. It takes 11 days to ship to Asia from BC. It takes 20 days to ship from the US Gulf Coast. We have cold weather. It's nice and crisp out here today. That reduces the cost of liquid.
His far-left anti-coal rhetoric is destroying Canada. Yeah, what the fuck?
Liquefaction by 25%. Well, how do you liquefy a gas? You cool it down. We've already got a natural cooling system. It's called our climate.
Not if you build a shitload of pipelines and blast CO2 everywhere, asshole!
And also we have...
He's literally describing how he plans on shooting himself in the foot and why he just literally explained why his plan will not be sufficient or function if it goes through within the next 15 to 50 years. You invest in these things, you get them built, then you rely on the Arctic to cool shit, then it warms up because of the shit you're blasting in the air, and now all of the investment you made is fucking useless because you can't use it anymore. I knew that he wasn't forward-thinking in any real capacity, but for him to, in one breath explain out loud why his plan will not function and end up wasting Canadian dollars is actually impressive.
Abundant energy to power that liquefaction. So we have enormous advantages over the Americans, the Qataris, and countless others. We just need to get this.
And yeah, Jason has a good point. What is being done now had to be started 10 to 15 years ago, which is why, if you were to look at, nuclear plants, for example, the ones that are being started now, if the Conservatives are in power, they will be finished and completed during the Conservative tenure if the Conservative tenure lasts for 5 years. If it lasts that long. right? So, and they would be started by the Liberals. Time exists, right?
Liberal government out of the way and elect a new conservative government that will get it done for a change.
En français.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Trudeau, Monsieur Carney, toujours plus efficace.
Your next question is from Marianne Dipolto from Franco Press. Please go ahead.
Bonjour, Monsieur Poilievre, Marianne Despelteaux de Franco Presse.
So he's taken a total of 4 questions while he's here, and only three of them out of 4 have been on the phone. Why not allow the press that are at the event to ask questions? I'm curious as to why this is.
Vous avez confirmé que si élu premier ministre, vous allez voir qu'elle
a dit qu'on va financer de gens. Aussi nous a cité goûter les libéraux et d'autres mettre de fun. Thanks very much, everyone. Let's bring it home.
Then he didn't answer the 4th question in English. All right, so Carney has already answered 5 questions, so I'll let him do a couple of more.
Exactly the right question. In terms of, yes, the probability of a recession in the United States has gone up significantly. You see that from independent commentators, and something that we had warned about, and I take no joy in it becoming more likely. That will have significant effects on the Canadian economy. It's very hard for us to avoid that area. That's part of the reason why in advance of this election we made the changes to EI to make it more generous. It's part of the reason why we made the changes to provide liquidity.
Rez says reducing the chances of competent questions is making me look worse than it already does. Yeah, like his answers were not comprehensive. His answers didn't make him sound like he knew what he was talking about. And the questions were all pipeline related.
To Canadian companies, so they're not pulling back unnecessarily. And I think that we're at a situation where those steps will help provide for companies the financing that's necessary in order to do. There's other things that can be done on the margin. What we're going to need to do, though, what Canadians will choose their government in a few weeks. My judgment, my government will act with force. We will accelerate major investments. We will provide very clear guidelines on where we're going to spend money, where the returns are going to be for the private sector, where we're going to take regulations away. I'll give you one example to make that tangible, David, but there are many more. We announced at the First Minister's meeting 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago.
All right, Color, tell me if I'm wrong here. Poilievre is claiming that he wants to streamline these things and remove regulations. And Carney is saying, we also want to streamline things and remove regulations with these and here's how and in what way. And Poilievre is just painting with a sweeping brush, saying that the Liberals are doing these things. But Carney is going, like, we're not going to get rid of everything, but we need to change some of these things and adjust these things with intentionality. And they're specific.
Before calling the election, that we will remove all federal barriers to interprovincial trade, mobility, and by Canada Day. We will table that.
See? Remove all federal restrictions for interprovincial trade. That's removing regulations.
Legislation by Canada Day. We've left instructions for the officials to be developing that. We, as the Liberal Party, are developing that, and a first item of business if we are returned.
He even set it up if he doesn't win. He's like, listen, this is something we need to do regardless because it's good for Canada regardless of the party. So if the Conservatives win, here's the plan. It's already good to go.
He's going to be accelerating that because that's the kind of certainty that you help to provide for business to make those investments. And Canada moves forward as Canada, not reading Truth Social and X and watching tweets down there. We'll take charge. En ce qui concerne la risque d'une récession avec la force.
Lisa Globe and Mail. Last question from the delegation before going to local media.
Yes, thank you.
Good morning.
So he's taken 7, he's now on his 8th question from international media, and then he's going on to local media.
I'm Lisa Globe and Mail.
Hi.
I'm wondering if
Goblin Mail.
you think sending out a carbon rebate when you've taken away the actual levy constitutes as an election goodie? Do you worry that voters will see it as a voting bribe?
No, it's a very well thought through thing because what our commitment was from the start. I was a commitment I made during the leadership.
See, I don't agree, Rez. I think restrictions do need to be removed in this particular case. The federal restrictions between provinces transporting goods weren't good regulations and weren't good restrictions. That doesn't mean there should be no restrictions or oversight. It simply just means that the provinces should be able to freely trade amongst themselves. Right? I think Carney's slogan for it is one economy, not 13. For every territory and every province having its own economy. Like, quite frankly, the restrictions between the provinces are kind of fucking stupid and really, really do need to be reworked and readjusted, and the current regulations need to be removed. Now, it still should have oversight, don't get me wrong, but that's just not what he's talking about.
Campaign, and then we followed through once I had been chosen. And
yeah, they're the subject on CO2 emissions. Yeah, no, the restrictions on CO2 emissions need to be at least remained, if not slowly advanced over time. I would agree with you.
Was Prime Minister, and our commitment was that we were going to make.
And yeah, Jack is right. Look at the difference in their body language for sure.
So I had been chosen and was Prime Minister, and our commitment was that we were going to make Canadians whole. So, Pierre Poilievre said axe the tax and never said anything about the rebate, didn't acknowledge that it exists, didn't acknowledge that more than 70% of Canadians...
Okay, so we are 30 minutes in before Mark Carney mentioned Poilievre, and it was instigated by a question being asked. Meanwhile, fucking Poilievre didn't shut up about them the whole fucking time.
Canadian households were coming out ahead.
But I thought the Liberals were synonymous with bureaucracy. Again, the Conservatives don't know what they're talking about. This is literally a Liberal saying we want less bureaucracy in this area, and it's specific and it's pointed, and there's a plan about how and when to do it by, have it completed by Canada Day. So, this is just ignored. But, because the Conservatives don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They just think, oh, they're bureaucracy bad.
Of the combination of paying the consumer carbon tax and receiving the rebate, we recognized that they were coming out ahead. So we endeavor to make sure that having removed the tax, which gives money back, obviously, and we see it at the gas pump, but also making sure that the combination of the two makes sure that those families come out ahead. And so what we couldn't do in the 9 days of government is pass a tax cut. We've announced our intention for that middle class tax cut. It's very clear, the $825 for two earning.
Wow, the Liberals are planning on cutting taxes and have already gone out of their way to ensure that you would get money back without doing a tax cut? What is it the Conservatives fucking want again? They want nothing. They want rhetoric. They want to feel good instead of actually receiving good things. And receiving the things that they want. What was it? What did we see? Pipeline. Okay, Liberals already did pipeline and explained exactly how things can be approved and streamlined. Oh, we want less government bureaucracy. Okay, well, here's an example of what they want to do for less government bureaucracy. Oh, we want tax cuts. Okay, well, here's a tax cut, and here's a tax cut plan for the middle class. What are the Conservatives fucking bitching about? That's all they fucking do. They whine, they bitch, and they moan because they don't fucking know what they're talking about, and they have no idea what Carney is saying. They don't care. Because they don't care about any of this. It's all bullshit. It's just rhetorical talking points based on lies because they like the color blue for no fucking reason. Because they're stupid.
Families up to that. And that rebate bridges to the point at which, if we are elected, we will pass that tax cut. The numbers add up. It makes sure that those families come out ahead. So it's absolutely consistent with what I said effectively from January 15th when I launched my my leadership campaign. It's the right thing to do, and that's why we did it.
former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, during his last speech at the Liberal Convention, Leadership Convention, said Liberals are progressives. You're here targeting NDP and Green ridings. I'm wondering, do you identify as a progressive? And if so, what does being a progressive mean to you?
Well, I believe in progress. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think we could make Canada, which is the greatest country in the world, even better. I recognize injustice that still exists in our society of all forms. And we need to strive every day to make progress on that.
Real conservatives should also believe in progress. Not the right-wing extremist authoritarians that we're seeing that have co-opted on lies the conservative people in Canada. A real conservative still wants Canada to move forward as time goes on. They just want it to be a little bit slower and a little bit more cautious, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I don't necessarily disagree with those things. The problem is the current conservatives are not progressive at all. They're not even willing to stay the same. They're regressive in very, very bad ways, and in ways that are very, very bad for people. In immoral ways, as we saw earlier. Well, I don't care. My kids got their food. I got mine. Why should I care about anybody else? Why are you outraged about this? Oh, what do you mean the municipalities are fucking... We're fiscally conservative. We're fiscally responsible. What do you mean the Albertan municipalities are going bankrupt? What are you talking about? Conservatives don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
And I'll anchor it if I can in today's announcement. We need to do a much better job. We need to make progress in how we take care of our natural heritage for our children and grandchildren. But we can make progress. And the Liberal Party can do both things, which is to grow our economy, grow it for all Canadians, and make progress alongside. And that's what today's announcement is about.
Thank you. Over to local media. We got 5 minutes, so.
Okay.
The U.S. has announced its intention to raise softwood lumber duties.
Sure? I know you guys are from BC, but like, it's not, sorry, yes.
No worries. The U.S. has announced its intention to raise softwood lumber duties from 14.5% to 34.45%, which would be an enormous hit on an industry that is already struggling in BC with lowered supply and job losses. It's something the Premier says that he'll be talking to you about later today. What's your message to forestry workers in this province, and what do you plan to do in terms of supporting the industry and workers who are at this point worried about the feasibility of their jobs moving forward?
Okay, well...
Again, so I want to point out real quick, look at the difference in these questions. One was questions about fucking corporate. These are questions about people and industry and economics and climate, and these are involved questions. Not what the fuck Poilievre was being asked, which was just like nuances and confirming about what exactly he's fucking saying. Too many changes happening right now to be stagnant. Growth and research are needed. Changes to infrastructure is needed. No, Jason's 100% right. If you're stagnant right now, there's right now a giant gaping fucking asshole of a power vacuum with what America is doing. And it would be irresponsible at best, negligent, or even like at worst, like morally bankrupt to do nothing and just stagnate when there is such an opportunity and such a situation going on in the world.
Well, thank you for the question. And I start where you ended up, which is it starts with workers. It starts with workers and working back from workers, and our commitment in this trade battle.
The working class, you say,
is to support workers. These tariffs are.
You notice that Poilievre didn't say anything specific about like how many workers, like what kind of jobs, how the money is going to go to you. He was just talking about building more pipelines, which is all just corporate money.
Are wholly unjustified.
Corporate money, the money made comes from you, because the government pays for part of it, and the fucking, you, the taxpayer, have to pay taxes, and you, the taxpayer, have to buy, you're the consumer still?
They came through a USCR process, but they're wholly unjustified. And I recognize that there's 50,000 workers that are affected. by this. I recognize the importance of this industry. I've known it my whole life. The importance of this industry and the contribution to this province and this country. So I am very focused on this issue. Premier Eby and I will be discussing specific measures that can be taken. We have made very clear that we will act. We have a strategy to fight, protect, and build. And we are fighting unjustified tariffs. This is another unjustified tariff. You can expect us to fight against it. And you can expect us to take specific steps to protect those workers. Last point, if I may, on building. And this will take some time, but this is fundamental. We announced a week ago today a new housing strategy for Canada, an intention to double the rate of house building.
Okay, doubling the rate of house building and using explicitly or only Canadian wood is going to boom our lumber industry, and that is exactly going to keep that money flowing and keep the lumber industry jobs and keep the lumber industry afloat through tariffs with almost no issue. So people working in lumber almost don't have to be concerned in the long term. They might need to be concerned in the short term, but in the long term, if the Liberals get in, they're golden. They're going to be golden for like the next 75 years. Is this the new PM of Canada? Yeah, this is our current Prime Minister, Mark Carney. This is him on the campaign trail. We've been comparing the press releases from both of them. Both of these press releases happened in BC, and both of them happened on April 7th.
To 500,000 homes a year. And anchoring that back into mass timber, Canadian lumber, Canadian solutions. So it takes time, and it won't fully replace a U.S. market. We're going to fight hard to get that access to U.S. market. But we also have to have the ambition, and we do have that ambition, to build in this country to use our resources. Thank you.
Richard Zussman, Global BC.
You notice how he actually answered the question with very real policies that have already been announced?
Welcome to British Columbia. What took you so long to come back? And also, you're meeting with Premier David Eby today. He is.
Didn't we just see each other like a few weeks ago? But yeah, okay.
Election. You've been in many other provinces, not British Columbia yet. You're here now.
I am. Thank you.
And it's beautiful, as always. Yeah. Premier Eby has been expressing concerns for months about the way equalization works. He says BC doesn't get its fair share, that we don't get major infrastructure funding from the federal government as we should for things like the Massey Tunnel. We're not getting the right amount of money to support immigration in this province, to support things like housing, to support the province to build schools and.
Oh shit! I lost count. How many are we? How many questions are we at? I think we broke 10. Hey, Honest Ray, good to see you.
Hospitals. Would your government consider looking at equalization and supporting provinces based on the burden they take when it comes to federal programs like immigration?
Thank you, Richard, for the question. I look forward to the meeting with Premier Eby, and we have regular discussions. So this is part of those discussions. I'm a huge believer in federalism, and I'd say the following. I start from results and work backwards from results. The major infrastructure here, developing this economy, ensuring that social safety net is adequately funded in British Columbia and all provinces and territories. I start from that, and then how do we best make that happen? I think some of the biggest impacts on infrastructure are going to be this focus on projects of national interest at this time of crisis. That's to go back to
yeah, no, he's right. One of the ways to deal with a crisis is to build inward, but not like make sure that you don't turn inward, which is one of the major mistakes that America is making, and one of the major mistakes that happened during World War II, if I'm remembering correctly. There was a big economic interning by everybody, and so seeing France and Canada both, and even China, working really hard to ensure that doesn't happen.
Mr. Aiken's question
and
about
we don't
the
make
economy,
that same
that's
mistake.
how we're going to have the biggest response here is to move those forwards rapidly. So.
And if you don't believe me and you want a more recent example, Brexit and what America is doing right now is destroying their economies.
Will be a series of things outside of equalization that are new and that are high impact that we'll look to work forward. But I'm always open, and with respect to immigration, last point, they are. We have not lived up to our promise to those we brought to this country. We don't have the capacity in terms of housing, social services, and those who came as students. They're not all getting the education they deserve in Canada. We need to build that capacity. We need to manage immigration at lower levels for a period of time, until we have those results and the capacity. And of course, that means working very, very closely between the federal and provincial governments. Thank you.
We'll do a last question, please.
Yes.
Cindy Harnett with the Times Colonist, and we welcome you anytime. And so
thank you. I know.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre yesterday brought up the fact that BC is overwhelmed.
So this is the second time Pierre Poilievre has come up in this whole 40 minutes. And again, it's via a question.
By the fentanyl crisis right now. He talked about putting more money into overdose or recovery, and he also talked about clamping down on overdose prevention sites, consumption sites, supervised sites, which are of course approved by the federal government. So if you can talk about, will those approvals continue under yourself? What is your plan, and will you talk about that with David Eby today?
I will talk about it with the Premier, not least because, the direct delivery of that is at a provincial, of those sites is on a provincial level. We are undergoing a review of the effectiveness of these. Again, I'm going to go back to results and whether or not this is the best mechanism going forward, or the best approach going forward. I will say this as well, which is that we are attacking the fentanyl crisis on multiple levels. It starts with source, the supply of fentanyl and its antecedents.
Which is coming from
10,000
America.
border agents, Black Hawk helicopters, drones, specific targeting of the cartels that are producing.
This he's referring to a deal that Trudeau made with Joe Biden.
A process that has
That Trump has since taken credit for.
been reducing the supply, at least the trans-border supply, quite significantly. It goes to working directly with the provinces on treatment, and it also goes to better supporting loved ones who are dealing with the horrors of addiction. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. C'est ce qui m'a fait notre
So his answer is continue with using force at the border to get less of illegal and illicit drugs coming into the country, as well as supporting and enabling medical care and social services to help people with addiction, and reviewing and improving the safe injection sites and making any adjustments to them as needed, while working with the provinces to do so, because that is a provincial thing.
conférence. C'est ce qui m'a this was an enter press conference. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
That's it. Yay, we did it. Congratulations. We wasted a bunch of time fact-checking a bunch of fucking morons in the side chat that didn't know what they were talking about and refused to accept a single fucking fact. Congratulations. Thank you for embarrassing yourselves. Thank you for proving my point. And thank you for joining us. And I hope you guys enjoyed. We'll do another one of these tomorrow. I'm off to go play Star Trek, and I'm pretty sure Mania's going to be on soon to dunk on a Nazi. I'm hungry. I don't know about you guys, but I'm out of here, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining. Like and subscribe. We'll see you later. Bye! I hit the wrong button. And just for the conservatives that swung by, one special last thing for you guys.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. God have mercy on your soul.